YouTube. All right. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Kurt, and hello to everybody. Welcome to another episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, and we are in February of 2026. You know what that means?
No.
This is a big deal. So, February starts with a 2.
Oh, yes.
And tomorrow is going to be a 5-2 day. There's only going to be 6 days in this whole year of 2026 that have 4 2s, and tomorrow is 6 altogether, and tomorrow is one day that's going to have 5 2s. So tomorrow will be 2/2/2026, and later in the month you'll have 2/22/2026. And there will also be December 22nd, 2026. And who cares? Well, if you go onto Twitter, onto Doommags, I wished everybody a happy Tuesday. And right now I'm going to do something live, which I've never done before, and that is I'm going to check to see if there's been any use of the word Tuesday with the spelling. This is the tweet I did last night. Happy Tuesday to all. Wednesday will be 2/2/2026, the first of 6 special Tuesdays this year. February 22nd and December 22nd will be the most sacred days of 2026, containing 5 2s. And then there will be 6 Tuesdays that only have 4 2s. The numbers cults or hashtag S, or what is that? The pound sign. Actually, the pound sign was the number sign before it was the pound sign, right? I don't know why we don't call it the number sign anymore, but I get people are pounding that number on their phone for all kinds of things. So it says the numbers cults, or Pound S for short, were spin-offs of the Tuesday cults, who grew as mutual aid and Q numerology movement. So now let's go into one thing I regret most times is let's go into the search field on Twitter. Let's see what's going on. So here we see the trending crap. Epstein, Israeli airstrikes. Oh God, Todd Blanche. So I want to type in Tuesday, TWOSDAY, and I'm gonna put the hashtag in front of it. Let's see if anybody has ever used this for any purpose. I'm sure somebody has done it for something. And it's searching. So, folks, if you're unfamiliar, I don't know why it's. Oh, let me open up my Wi-Fi. I don't know why this isn't just working quick. Okay, it's going back searching the whole history of Twitter. All right, yeah. So there is 4 days ago, this girls group looks like a Universal Music group twice set Tuesday. So this was like a girl group banning that. Interesting. 5 days ago. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Oh no. What is this? Somebody's actually got this cult in real life. It says Happy Tuesday. No, they just spelled it wrong. Oh my God.
That's awesome. The American education system at its best, everybody.
Well, no, not American. This looks like Manisha Kataki, Moji Ka Parivar. So this looks like somebody that over in Asia, like India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, something like that. I don't want to mischaracterize it. Show me your pair capture for Happy Tuesday. Here we go, 5 days ago. And it is this pair of Vulcan, Likanbor, and Jurikis was worth every bumpy road and bout of altitude sickness. So this is somebody taking a picture of two mountains for Tuesday. Wow, so Tuesday is actually a thing? Um, in the future, in our sci-fi timeline, Tuesday is going to be a cult or mutual aid society. We'll call them cults because they gather together over shared ideas. And the idea of never being alone, right? Always having a companion, So the Tuesday cult is always encouraging, supporting somebody that's alone, right? And because of that, they're like, they have this, I guess, mental health and wellness bent to it, but it's also, improving things, right? And anytime you have a singular, a unitary object or thought or idea, why not make it better by adding another one, right? And so that's one of the philosophies. But when they unlock numerology in quantum mechanics, that's when things are going to get really interesting, because everybody, you, me, Kurt, everybody has numbers that are important to our lives, and those numbers um, can form a string, right? Like I have my birthday, December 7th. I have, my phone number. I have the apartment I grew up in, right? And all of these things only mean something to me. Whenever I'm driving, I look at license plates and I see like different number combinations, and they remind you of something. So when it comes to quantum mechanics, like there's interesting numbers of you know electrons and neutrons and protons and quarks, leptons, muons, all these kind of things. And sometimes the numbers are interesting. And wouldn't it be funny if our number strings had some ties to our quantum numerology, right? So those kind of things will be explored in the Tuesday cults. It's a blend of like superstition, mysticism, belief, but in the future, we're going to have all these cults, and some of them will be esoteric devotees that dedicate their lives to mysticism and trying to unlock their quantum ability, their abilities using quantum entanglement. And some are just into numbers and the coincidences of numbers. And whenever we say oh wow, that's a coincidence, look at that number, right? That's the number of my whatever. Those are like revelations, like deja vus and everything. And there's some interesting YouTube videos on there that have like millions and millions of views that are saying that anytime you have a moment like that, it's more than coincidence. Like you're actually getting like a confirmation from a alternate dimension that you're in the right place at the right time, and it's validating, that this other dimension of you is like doing these other things another way, and you can get glimpses of that. It's really interesting. I mean, it's kind of just like fun and games to me, but it was an interesting watch. And maybe I'll link that in the Doommags Twitter or Substack or Instagram one of these days. So I see that, Kurt, you're working on the last and final page 11 of the Alex Turbin inking endeavor, right?
Yes, and I'm going to actually be going backwards now. So I'm going to review the preceding 10 pages, and once that's done, that's it. The big thing I'll be doing is cutting a mask out to hit this robot character here into a little bit more black shadowing. So that'll be kind of fun for the kids to see how I go about and incorporate black spray paint into my work. But other than that, yeah, man, things are coming along. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. But the I want to just hook my car to your opening rant, if you will. Jake, your last live stream on Doommags, the 29th of January, was amazing.
You
I
didn't watch the whole thing.
I kind of did. And let
Oh
me
God.
explain. Let me explain what I
Hanging out
did
at Jake?
though. Okay, so Jake and I share an email account in order to both be notified of anything going on with the Doommags Substack, or going in and editing. So I'll get when he goes live. There's an email that's sent right after he's done that links to like little magic clips, is what Riverside calls them, and they're like around a minute ish. And if I've got like a kind of a low energy day, I'll take a couple minutes and catch up on what Jake's spewing on the Doom Magazine Substack after show, on Sundays, or as he's been doing quite often.
You better watch out, pal.
and and so I watched one and I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah, and I watched another one and I was like, whoa, man, this is like. He's like at a rapper's flow in a sense. So I was like, well, let me go check out the whole thing, and let me just kind of like, you click through, right? You just jump the timeline. So I jumped the timeline like 20 times, and then was like, all right, I want to download this and get it on YouTube. Reformatting it though. So that's one half of it, but they gave us 18 magic clips from the episode. So I downloaded all those, I upload them to YouTube, and they're now scheduled like twice a day, one in kind of the morning and one in the afternoon, evening-ish. But
yes, and thank you for doing that. Folks, if you're not on Substack,
right.
This is one of the most actually useful things that I've seen AI do. And that is it takes clips from a live stream that you may have done, and it just grabs them randomly. It edits them sometimes, like if there's a long pause, it takes that out. Super useful. And it also adds a transcription at the bottom so that people can read it even when the sound is off. And then you flip through the clips and say, oh, which is the highlight I can actually use. So I'll just take that URL and I'll share it, or Kurt is sharing it and he's releasing these in intervals. Kurt, one thing I'd like to I don't know, warn you or advise you is please be very, very, very selective. When I see those 18 or so clips that it gives you, I usually only pick like 3 or 4, or maybe even fewer, because if there's anything wrong with them, like they just catch you in the middle of a sentence, or they cut you off before you can complete a thought, or they're it's a topic that I strayed away from comics, or it's just really random. Like, feel free to just discard them, Kurt. But if you found good ones that you think would work well on our on our timeline and posting, then great. I totally trust you to curate those. But folks, if if you do what we do, I mean, Kurt calls it hanging out at Jake's house, and sometimes I do get another indie creator that'll come into one of my lives and just put comments. I'm waiting for when we're going to be able to add them to the live stream, and they come up on board and they're a voice. So folks can feel free when I go solo after Turbo Pit Fighter. It's usually like 20 minutes after, so like 1:30, let's say. To have another person there to just like shoot the breeze while we're all drawing. It's great. And Substack is a very useful. It has a very useful AI enhancement that takes your clips. As soon as your live stream's done, they send you a message. Do you want to post this online, or are you embarrassed of everything you just said and did? Do you want to delete it? So you say post online, and then a little while later, they come back to you and they give you all these clips and they're all, edited, like I say. And, I think it's pretty worthwhile if you're just trying to, build an audience and, engage people. So, maybe somebody will listen for a few minutes, or if they're bored, they're drawing, they're exercising, doing laundry, whatever. Obviously, if you're listening to me, you have nothing better to do. But there, we really talk to a lot of people that are drawing a lot, drawing comics a lot, and the news is toxic. Music is getting, at my age, music is getting kind of played out. I listen to music a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I don't listen to music all the time. I'm listening to something. And sometimes I listen to AI, sometimes I listen to podcasts, but sometimes I just listen to comic creators. So there you go. I see, Kurt, you flipped something up into view under God. This is the Angels of the Renaissance guy, right?
So next Sunday around 11:30, I have scheduled Ralph Nixon Jr. to jump on with us, as you were just saying. This would be on YouTube, though. And we'll already be launching into our 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock space. But I have been interested in bringing in, as we've done, indie creator exchange type interviews, have that just right there in the middle of us working for the 3-hour period of time. And then when everything's done, I can grab all three of those videos segments from each of us and then re-edit it, package it as an episode for the Indie Creator Exchange. So we're finally going to be able to sit down with the Ralph Nixon Jr., who is on my radar right now for an amazing indie artist, comics with the Amerimanga flair. as I've been reaching back to the 80s, somebody caught me saying that on my Crom the Barbarian channel, and kind of like try to razz me, I guess, where it was like, wow, man, we really had to go back to calling it Amerimanga.
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely manga. As we said, I asked Ro Higashi, who's stateside. She does manga and is here in the States. Would you consider yourself a mangaka? So she said yes, and that's going to be one of the questions I'm going to have for Ralph, because I am very interested in the way manga has taken over the sequential art form, if you will. Did you watch Comic Tropes After Dark? Or is it After Dark?
No.
Yeah, with Chris last week. So the only segment I really attached myself to, which kind of backs into what I was just spewing there, is Jim Lee did an interview with a Japanese magazine or something, and basically people are starting to get curious about the way he really praised manga for holding a position in the attention span and sales of comics in the United States. And maybe most famously, a line will get quoted out of that where he says, we're going to really need to learn to what that success, how manga has built that success in our country, and basically do it for ourselves. And of course, Jim Lee is basically the head honcho there at DC Comics. So I would love to see the whole manga form taken, get a big old 300 to 500 page black and white of just like 15 pages, comic book, what have you, and then it gets collected in a tokuban. But who knows?
Yeah, well, we talk about it all the time. I consider myself American style or Western style comics. And I'm very influenced by Robert Crumb personally, but also as we all do, we aspire to classic comic artists. I also one of my favorites. I don't think my art looks like him necessarily, but one of my favorites is also Tim Vigil, Neil Adams, and John Buscema. Are just some of the titans that I look up to. But I think Crumb, like I'm reading this Crumb documentary, and I mean, what do they call it again? A book. And
Biography.
a biography, yes. And as you can see, I'm just about halfway done already. So we're in 1969, and they're putting out Zap number 4. They as far as people that hate Crumb or they cancel him or whatever, you should read the book too, because they don't pull punches, and they explain why Crumb was doing what he was doing. He's very messed up childhood, and then as an adult, I mean, here's something that we got to talk about, Kurt.
Yes.
Because I get inspired when I see Crumb's drawing style. I just love his drawing style, and I want, he's just a kind of like old timey natural artist, pen and ink guy that just does amazing things. Excuse me, on the fly. But excuse me, let me have a little sip of tea before I
spew.
Yes, before watch what you say there, pal. That's a different channel. It's
A bit silly.
Yeah. So what I took away from this last couple of sections I've been reading is, number one, that Robert was always drawing. He was always making comics. He realized that this was his golden goose, and all he needed was a pen and a piece of paper. So he would have his sketch pads, and he would be making his final pages in these sketch pads as he's hanging out. And when, like, sometimes you say, oh, we're gonna go over to so and so's house and we're just gonna hang out and everything. Well, he'll bring his sketch pad and his pen and pencil, whatever. Sometimes he went straight to pen, they were explaining. Sometimes he used rapidograph, sometimes he used a dip pen. So I guess bringing a jar of ink is a little different from like bringing like a marker or something. And in those days you had limited resources. A rapidograph pen was portable, or a Pilot Razor Point was around, I think in the 70s, but I don't know about the 60s. And anyway, he used to just use that time when everybody's hanging around, and some people are smoking dope, and some people do stuff. Well, he was always drawing, and so that was a fascinating thing that I took away. So last night I go out, and my drummer is in this other band. He's in this Hendrix cover band, and so I go out and see them. And there was also a Doors cover band there, and the whole time I'm drawing. And I was like, why don't I do this more often? All you need is a little bit of light, and I take like a blue line pencil, a regular pencil. I don't even bring ink because I'm just doing pencils. And I did 3 pages of a Hellclaw story last night. Well, it was a 3-page, yeah, 2 pages, 2 sequential pages and a cover. I did this pin up, so I just start drawing, and then I say, hey, I'm working on Hellclaw. Why don't I do a Hellclaw story? So I did this whole thing, sketched it all out with pencil and dialogue. 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, 5 panels on this page. Next page, it's a fight scene already, and 2 pages done. And I started a 3rd page, so I got 2.5 pages done while I was grooving to some music, and probably the reason was because the bands were a little mellow, and I wasn't like swept off my feet and go dancing like up in the front or anything. When the music's really, really like up tempo and exciting, like sometimes I go up and I like dance.
You boogie?
But yeah, shaking what my mama gave me.
Yeah.
So so I'm going to try to do that more often. Like, is it rude socially to just be drawing when everybody's hanging out? I don't think so, because number one, I made a lot of friends, oh, what are you drawing? Especially like these I mean, this was a bunch of 60s, aging 60s people. I don't want to say hippies, but they all had a couple drinks in them, and they're like real friendly. So like, hey, are you drawing the band? I'm like, no, actually, I'm drawing some superheroes, style stuff. And they're like, oh, can I see? And then you get to talking.
Will you
So,
draw me? Will you draw me? Could you do my? Could you do? I hate that.
am I? Oh, right. When they say, can you draw me?
Can you draw me?
Right. Well, Robert Crumb talks about that. Once he hit fame and fortune, he was like, so many people asked him to do so many things, like birthday announcement, like a menu for my restaurant, like all this kind of stuff. And he would do it for friends. He would do all kinds of stuff for friends, but at some point he gets tired, and you have to start saying no. And Kurt knows that feeling very well. I know that feeling very well. Um, and or it's like, can you give me a week, or can you like, wait till the weekend when I got some more time? It is actually an honor to be asked to do something for somebody, because it means you're a good artist, and it means, that they want to see if they can, use your art for something in their life. Are they trying to get it for free?
Yep.
Are they like, oh, here, I made you a cake for doing me that drawing? There's all kinds of stuff, like, but that's just interpersonal relationships, and people have to navigate that. The other takeaway that I need to talk about from this book, Kurt, is that Robert Crumb, the controversy is how he portrayed women. It isn't really how he treated women. Um, I mean, part of it is how he treated, his wife, and
Which one?
the first wife. I'm
Yeah.
only up to Dana. They're still married and they have a son. When he started to get a little money in his pocket from some of these advances from Viking Press and Valentine, like he would get like $5,000 at once. That was a lot of money in '69. So they bought a place outside of San Francisco. I think it was Mendocino County, and it had two structures on it. And Dana and Jesse were living in the main house. Crumb was paying for everything, and he lived in this little like shack or whatever on the property.
With his girlfriends.
Well, yeah, they had an open relationship after 68. They get to 69, and they both had open relationships. But the author here, Dan Nadel, says it was very hypocritical for women in the 60s when they had the free love movement and everybody was just hooking up, because she had Jesse and she was raising Jesse. And so, when it said like, even if you don't have kids, the females were still expected to do the house cleaning and, all the kind of domestic stuff. And at the same time, be partying and having a good time, and hooking up or not, free love, do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, who's going to sweep the floor on the kitchen and all the rooms so that it isn't like a pigsty? And Crumb was the breadwinner, and so he was making a lot of money using his time to draw all the time, and that was like the golden goose of the family. So they had this relationship where, you know, Crumb really did have, a lawyer and accountant, just kind of handing off the money to Dana and Jesse, and he just wanted to make sure that they were taken care of, because he knew he was not a great dad. He was an absentee father. He used to go away for, weeks or months at a time, go to New York City or Chicago. He had his good old friend in Cleveland, Marty Pauls, who was living with his sister, Sandra Crumb, at that time. And a lot of ups and downs, but I'm not all the way through the book yet. I haven't gotten to the 70s yet. But one thing that's really interesting is that because Crumb was drawing all of this underground stuff, Zap 1 comes out, Zap 2 comes out, Zap 0 comes out. The Fritz the Cat collection comes out on Ballantine Press, because Viking had made too many edits and Crumb wrote them like a cursing letter, like F them.
Yeah.
Um, so he was drawing all these kind of like heavy set women, like stocky women. That's
Thick.
they even call them crumb women, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Like, you can see he had like obsession with women's legs and stockings and everything like that. This is just the back flyleaf here. And because of that, all of his friends would just bring him women, to meet that would have that body type. And they would say to the women, "Oh, you should meet Robert Crumb. He draws, women with your body type." And this was going on in the 60s. And Crumb was only like 26, I think. And what a thing to have. Like, people are just bringing you bringing you women. And it's the 60s, 68, 69. It's free love ever since the summer of love, of people just hooking up casually, sorry. And Crumb took full advantage. He was an ugly, sheepish guy. He had low self-esteem, and he was skinny as a rail. And and his one talent was drawing and cartooning. So he says he was always fascinated by the fact that he could get women, in this age of free love. And so he would say it in his comics, like, "I did okay, heh, like." And he had these dalliances. Dana wouldn't be happy about it, but she did the same thing after a while. She had a guy that she settled down with. He was just a hippie teacher. And and I guess that guy was like a dad to Jesse in a way. But yeah, I mean, Kurt, I know you're from Wilmington, and probably more of a traditional family. My family, I have some of the same stories with my parents. I was 3 years old in '69, so I was like Jesse. And my mom had boyfriends, and not even boyfriends, just people around. And I lived on a hippie commune for a year and a half, upstate New York. And my dad, was also free to do stuff, but he did it, far less than my mom. My mom was a real hippie. She was 29 and 69, and she was still like, model looks. And so she had a lot of romantic stuff, and she did all this, freewheeling hippie stuff. And it did traumatize me as a kid, because it was kind of weird. Like, your mom is with this guy, and why are we in a van going away for the weekend? Me, my brother, my mom, some guy, and his two dogs. And like, we have to try to get to know him, but it's awkward because they're having sex. And I mean, that the funny thing is, going a little bit roundabout, like, me and my brother would be alone to fend for ourselves for a while. And we would be in some guy's house upstate, or a bungalow or whatever, and we're going through all this stuff. So we would like be putting on Beach Boy records. And then, one day, it was a different time. We were in a like more of a communal house, and I was looking through somebody's stuff. I found a whole stack of crumbs, and I was only a kid. I was only a little kid. I was probably 3, 4 years old. And I was looking at all of it. And I saw all of it. I got completely, age inappropriate, completely traumatized. I just kind of bookmarked it for later, and my eyes were just taking everything in. But it was no different from looking at a Playboy, or, anything else that was adult. And, I was a hippie kid growing up. I really was. And it wasn't until my mom dropped me and my brother off with my dad to live full time in like 1972, I want to say, in the city, that I became more of just like a normal city kid. But I had, fears and paranoias and trauma, from seeing, a lot of stuff when I was a little kid, that I guess is endemic to kids that are grown up in hippie culture. Maybe there's somebody out there that can relate, but you have to be kind of on the old side. I'm in my late 50s, and these things are like specific to, I guess, the summer of love, 67, 68, 69, when yeah, there was a lot of like casual hippie sex and everything. Nobody was going to church, and
I love how you make these like big, broad, grand statements. Like nobody was going to church in the '60s.
not where I
I,
was.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Because,
Yeah.
like, I think one of the greatest divides in our country was obviously the division that the Vietnam War held, and that holding was definitely, right wing, what we refer to now Christians, and everybody else, the free-wielding leftists, commie idealists, all this kind of stuff, which once again,
Crumb's biggest targets, were like the kind of like,
well,
fruit
let me ask this question. Like, did
apple
you
pie fruit cut type
how
of,
how early on did you feel that your situation was so unlike your friend's situation? Because I know one of them, this is going to sound like really weird, but one of the trauma, the types of things that come up for me, um were pretty early on in the '80s. Like everybody's parents were getting divorced.
yeah,
like that was like I didn't
or
understand it or
separated,
anything. I mean, I've got some crazy ass stories, like mom and dad's friends. This one guy drove his car up on our front lawn because his wife was, crying on my mom's shoulder and was banging on the front door drunk and everything.
Sure.
And my dad had to basically, kick him in the ass and put him out on the street and stuff, So anyhow, when did you start feeling like your situation was not, nuclear family, white bread American?
Well, the '60s and the '70s are slightly different animals, but when you get to the '80s, it's a completely different, vibe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the '60s, like, you mentioned that everybody, I would say the '70s, really, everybody was getting divorced. I remember this when I was in second grade, or maybe it was third or fourth, I forget, but it was like in the early '70s. This little girl, her name was Michelle. Her parents had just gotten divorced, and she was kind of bummed out about it because it changed her living arrangement. And she was just like a little third or fourth grader girl, right? And so our teacher, Miss Bregman, or I forget, it was Miss Eagle or Miss Bregman, but she goes, does anybody know what she's going through? Like, raise your hand if your parents are divorced, or and so everybody in the class raised their hand, and
Wow.
almost everybody.
Wow.
Like me, yeah. There was only like maybe like 4 kids that didn't raise their hand, and I my hand went halfway up, but I said, I had this question of innocent enough. I was like, well, what about separated? Right? Because you mentioned divorce, but what about separation? Separation is even weirder because you're not together, you're seeing other people, maybe, maybe one or both are seeing other people, but you're still married, you still financially tied, you still have kids, and you're half in, half out. Well, that was my parents. And my parents got back together in like the '90s, and we're back together for good until my dad died.
Oh wow, I never knew that, Jake.
Yeah. And my mom had, many different relationships, some, many years, and some, very unhealthy, only to end up back with my dad. And my dad, he tried it like for a little bit, but it wasn't really him. He was not like Mr. Philanderer, Hugh Hefner going out and all this kind of stuff. He was a homebody. And, especially when my mom dropped me and my brother off with him to raise us, day in, day out, he was just a responsible dad. And, he went to sleep at like 9 o'clock every day because he woke up at like 5 something in the morning. So me and my brother were basically like latchkey kids, and we were, we had no curfew. But when I was with my mom on the hippie commune, before she dropped us off, it was the culture shock that you were talking about, because my brother and I were both like what 5 and 6 years old, and we had hair down to our back of our back, long unkempt hair, and we were going to Marbletown Elementary School, which was mostly kids with crew cuts and NFL t-shirts, and their parents, like some of the parents were literally farmers, and they would talk about things like snowmobiles, and me and my brother were we were being raised by hippies, barefoot hippies, that clothes were optional in the warm weather. Like literally for me, clothes, I walked around naked, because I was only a little kid, and I didn't know anything. So yeah, so I would get teased, I would get pushed, I would get knocked over. And it was funny because in my class there was this kid named Tucker, and he looked at me like, "Are you a boy or are you a girl?" Right? It was the classic thing, and he would like tease me and push me and everything. And then there was this little girl named Kim who was nice to me, and she once made me a name card for my desk. When you take a piece of paper and you fold it into three, and it like becomes a little nameplate, and she wrote my name on it, my real first name, and she gave it to me. She goes, "I like your hair because it reminds me of my dog." And so she was nice.
Nice.
She had a poodle.
God
and,
bless
and,
her.
and so she was nice. So but meanwhile, this kid Tucker was bullying me and like beating the crap out of me. So during lunchtime, it was like the grades were all mixed, and my brother was there. And my brother goes up to Tucker and he goes, I was like, this guy's messing with me. He's giving me the business. And so my brother said, what are you doing? What's the matter with you? And, he said, what are you, a fucker? Tucker's a fucker. And, it was that level of schoolyard stuff.
Hell yeah.
We were digging up worms. It was just like a White Stripes song. We're digging up worms and bugs. But there's the culture shock, and growing up with your parents' baggage. Whether it was me or whether it was Tucker, we were all reflecting, the lifestyle that we were, and being
experiencing.
Yeah, right. And I was just a little artistic little kid. One good thing is that I was drawing a lot. I was encouraged to draw a lot, so that was good. Even though there was naked people walking around, I was drawing when I was just a little, or just old enough to hold a pencil. So always an interesting discussion. Kurt, I have to talk to you because I've just been like sketching at this Hellclaw piece here, but I'm done with my homework. I finished the Casualties from Ken Landgraf, all 6 pages.
Oh, nice.
So I'm ready to go back into Alex Turbin, or I could go back into zine pages, or I could colorize the cover for Doommags #1, whatever is the highest priority, or maybe they're all equal.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they are all equal in my. I mean, you're not going to get anything from me right now.
Okay, so then I'm going to colorize.
That's what I was going to suggest.
This is going to be fun.
Yep.
The Casualties cover for Doommags #1. I'm kind of second guessing. I recommended, or I suggested, what if we reprinted all of the Turbo teaser in Doommags #1, and that would make the page count a lot higher, but it would also make the book a lot more substantial, and it would also replace any need for Turbo teaser #1 or 2. It's kind of like, here's everything we have, accumulated, plus the Ken Landgraf, Casualties first story, and the Alex Turbin first story, and the Cremated 2-pager, and plus some zine pages. But I'm wondering, if that's the move, because, and only because I'm making this cover for Do Magazine's #1 that features the Casualties. Is it okay? I mean, I'm going to give myself permission, if we go ahead and do that, to have a 6-pager have the cover, even though there's an 18-pager within. What do you think?
I am very good with getting all of the turbo pages in there. I'm even fine with getting everything in this anthology and calling calling the teaser quits. Basically, if you've got a teaser now, that's worth some change. That
in
kind of
the turbo world, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think
it'll be rare, yeah.
The tough thing nowadays, I'm starting to I see and I experience, especially with the Crom stuff, is it's kind of like and I've actually been seeing this in on other channels, especially when it comes to writing, the way people digest written material is not front of novel to back of novel anymore, is what's being, this is like real surveying that's kind of coming forward, because people have this divided mind with the phone being so near them. So a lot of the times, people are making these decisions ahead of time, and they're saying, you know what, I'm just going to sit down and read a chapter today, instead of just trying to read a book today.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So the idea
we have is skimming it and then saying we're going to read it like more thoroughly later, and then it sits in a pile.
But I think the thing though, well, what they were saying is people are, they're fine with getting a larger comprehensive book, all the way up to there are authors out there that are making mint on reprinting I'm not saying all of their material, maybe like some series, like all the way together with an extra chapter or two or some kind of like epilogue or prologue, hardbound, and selling them for $100 a pop, and they're selling like 500-600 of them, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't subscribe anymore to the one and done, like, oh, those 12 pages are stuck in that teaser that we still have, on Mixum that you can get, print wise and everything. I'd rather have somebody like be a true fan, as I know we're building, and give them that much more, you know what I mean? Like when they get the next thing from us, it's much, much more. But then as things go along, that they're experiencing the fact, that when new people find us, they feel like they're on board with this one thing they've bought. This anthology #1 has them up to date with everything Jake and Kurt have done. I don't want anybody being like, oh, well, now I got to go get this issue. And I think it's poor.
Right, but
it's poor marketing nowadays.
Yeah. So I agree with all that. But I don't want to make a $35, like collection. Like you have with Crom, you have this really thick book and everything. And I would like to keep it light and breezy, and just kind of nice
you've already put $5 on as a price tag on the cover of my that I gave
no,
you.
actually I on my cover I left it off here. But on the other cover we did.
But there's very few people who are making an in-depth piece of material as we are, at over 36 pages at $5.
With no ad. Yeah.
I don't give a shit with the ad. That has no problem. The whole idea is that, the price point entry for indie comics is $10. It has to be, because
right.
you've got to sink at least $2 or something, $3, maybe more dollars into, and I'm just talking floppy right now, a 36-page book. You're sinking in, like $3 worth of your income. Now, if you want to sell that comic book through a distributor, and it's $5, you're losing 50 cents every time that comic goes out through that distributor to a store. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want to have something that's a promotional material. That's fine. But I'm not going to sit here on the other side and say, yeah, I really think we should have like a $35, 256. That's not what I'm saying. We could cap it off, and we can hold material for the next Doom anthology. That's what I do now with Crom anthology. If I just don't feel like the work's going to really fit in there, it feels like it's just getting it puffier. I'll just hold off for the next one. So
okay, well, I love to create the art and stories and everything, and I don't want to, like, let's kick the can down the road about like what we're going to charge and everything, but sometimes I defer to Kurt, and it all makes sense. The problem, I think the real problem, that I see is that shipping costs are just astronomical, and printing, I don't know if it's holding, printing costs, if they're holding or not, but you got to get your work printed and you got to get it shipped. So one way or the other, we'll figure it out.
Well, let me once again just bring this up, because we're definitely doing it. It's not up for conversation. But these two right now are on cromanthology.com. Excuse me, cromthebarbarian.com. This is an old 2018. It's 56 pages. It's all of the 4 Crom color comics and my first 4 pen and ballpoint pen versions of Crom's youth. And then this Lillian Chesney, one of the first female comic book illustrators to do comic book, and it just so happened to be the Arabian Nights. These are also available on Amazon. And with them being on Amazon, the number one thing is anywhere in the world that there's an Amazon, you can now get a copy of these 2 comics, anywhere in the world. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you're getting it free shipping, and probably within 2 days. That's what they're going. You can't beat that. And my price point, just so you know, is exactly where it should be, because Amazon takes 60%. So the 40% I'm getting off of this is just as much, if not more, than what I would get from selling it off of my website. So, the anthology is definitely going to get that Amazon publishing status, because it seems ridiculous to not put it in that space to give somebody the opportunity cost effectively to get the book. You know what I mean? And that's one of the other things that what we're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a luxury that I have a day job and I don't have to worry about making money, and actually losing money, sometimes is better for your taxes at the end of the year. So you don't have to pay any kind of like filing stuff, and worry about having income, worry about having audited. No, I just have expenses. But it's really just, we're just getting off the ground. It's really just a sideline. I don't have to worry about paying my bills. I just have to worry about not losing money, which is a nice worry to have. There's a million ways to do it. There's a million ways to skin a cat, and we'll make the decision when it comes down to the wire, which is when we're going to print, what the price on the cover is going to be printed, how it's going to be printed, right? What is it going to say? So that's all, coming in the future.
Yeah, we also have to put together everything that we have. Like, that's the most important thing for me, is that we actually sit down with all the content and look at it. Just because we made everything doesn't mean it all gets thrown in a book. That's shitty. I think that's a very shitty approach to publishing. just because you're a thicker book and you want to be cheaper just to get it out there and you're not worried about making a profit is also a shitty way of going about it business wise. So there is a very good margin that we can find. I think there's also going to be other opportunities to, let's say, get our books distributed, not only Amazon, but, just get our books distributed. So, I know you have a very laissez-faire, I just want to be the artist and the writer. And I'm fine with that. That gives me 51% of the voting because I'm the one that actually needs to put it into some kind of marketing to have it in some kind of existence nowadays. That's just the truth. Your art, because you believe it's great and other people are telling you it's great, has no meaning in sales whatsoever. It really doesn't. Because the problem with the sales and buying mechanism of all of us is most of the time we cannot afford what it is that we see. Impulse buying is almost dead, they say, in marketing. There used to be a time when it was like, oh yeah, look, a comic book, and you would buy it because it was cool and it had good art. That doesn't exist, especially in comics, because you're getting hit every day with a new comic book. At least 10, 100 new comic books are being pushed out into the marketplace. So we have regulated ourselves to think, okay, I think I'm going to have to just sit back and build a little list, a file, if you will. I have a browser folder that just says buy comics, and I'll see something and dump it in there. And, if it's a Kickstarter, I'll definitely follow that Kickstarter and then wait for that maybe 48-hour period before it comes to a close. And I also have to check the bank account before I go on. You know what I mean? I just can't take the approach that, let's see what happens. That's an unsound way of running a business. And that is what we're doing.
Right. So, folks, you got the creative side and then the business side. So,
and it's really the same. It's really the same. You have to be the same organism. Just because you're creative and just because you want to be creative does not automatically create a career or business for you. That, I think, is something that I stand very strong for, especially when rarely now I even get people coming to me saying, oh, I feel like I should become a comic book artist. Don't become a comic book artist in the way that you think you're going to earn, quote unquote, a living. And I think it's also just something in the world right now. I think you really need to prioritize your existence. Oh, but and this goes back to the Crom thing and his shitty family and upbringing, and then how he was shitty, as they say, to people and women. He was coming up through the ranks. But the central thing you kept saying through that story, and I believe it's being said in the biography, is Crom needed to draw. He says it in his in the first documentary from 92. He says if he goes without drawing for a couple of days, he wants to kill himself. And he's not saying it in a joking way. In other words, he can't process this existence without sitting down with a piece of paper and a pen and drawing things out and maybe making a story, a short 1-pager, a 4-pager, or whatever, a whole comic. And it gets published and people like it, and it puts money on the table. But I think we need to get ourselves very much separated from that being a career.
Well, everybody's different. Folks are welcome to look at what we're doing as an example of two guys that are figuring this all out. And I'm probably like Crum in the fact that and a lot of artists that you're just creative and you're kind of negligent about the rest. And I'm guilty of that. I was telling somebody yesterday, I've been in a band for over 20 years. I'm the worst promoter ever. Like, I don't even walk around with copies of our our records, 45s to give out in case I meet like a distributor or a DJ, a radio guy, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm the worst. So, everybody's different, and people, you're all on your own journey, and you need to figure this out. And some people find it distasteful if you're just like an idealistic creator and you're like, oh, I just want to make fun stories and I just want to do the fun part and everything. Well, we've had plenty of creators on our interviews that they talk very meaningfully about what they are and are not doing to promote their comic. And we all learn from each other in the space. But Kurt is has got strong opinions of what to do and what not to do, and he is definitely not shy about sharing them here. So take if anything's useful for you, take it and under advisement, and find your own way. But a lot of people we talk to, they also just readily admit that they're not making money and they're doing it for the love. They hope that in the future that it'll pay dividends. We have a lot of that going on too. So I would say like make the best art you can, and if you have a day job, you know just let that worry about itself. Eventually people will, you'll find your audience and people will gravitate to your work or not. You shouldn't stay up nights, saying like, oh, I want to compromise my art just because I need to think about, business stuff. I would say do the opposite and, err on the side of making a lot of good art, and, don't be an idiot, and, talk to somebody like Kurt. I mean, Kurt actually does this kind of stuff for people. He does website promotion and, social media stuff, consulting, what have you. But that's another thing nowadays. It's called a social media manager, right?
Yep.
And people hire that. You might have somebody out there, who is a social media manager for a company, and they might really rely on that person to I guess maintain the online presence that a lot of people need to have now to to make a company a working thing. I imagine that even somebody like, I can't imagine like Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, they might have multiple people in this position doing tons and tons of work on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Who knows?
Well, it's they call it attention strategies. That's the whole that I'm a weirdo in the art world because since the age of about 14, 15 years old, I started, and this is my father's support, if you want to call it that. But understanding the value of what you're doing for the people who want it. So, like, when going back to the conversation where, once people know that you draw and, oh, can you draw me a picture? Can you do a flyer and stuff like that? I have two prices out there. I have one price that is solid, and I believe it's a market value. And I'm always researching what market value of said thing is. 8.5 by 11, full color comic book character, boom, done, right? But if you're a friend or a family member, I'll reduce that price in order for it to be affordable for you. But the reality is I can never be thought of as somebody who will do something creatively for nothing. I can't be thought, I have not been, treated any way other than, like, oh, I've even heard like people say it comes back around like, oh, they really wanted you to work on this thing, but you're too expensive. And I was like, well, how much was the budget? And they're like, oh, it was like $120. I was like, well, how much work were they looking for? Oh, they were looking for like 16 drawings. So I was like, yeah, I was way outside of their budget. You know what I mean? Like I love the marketing and managing of being creative. Like it's my two worlds is I have to be creative in order to keep myself sane and some sort of objective, optimistic outlook on this physical existence. But at the other side of it, I don't want to be A, taken advantage of, and B, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be a starving artist. I've always hated that, like, oh, and the biggest thing I still hate nowadays is when somebody finds out you're an artist. And like my eye doctor and my dermatologist this past year asked that question finally. And they're like, what do you do again? I was like, oh, art. Oh, art. Oh, is there any money in that anymore? And I go, guess what? And they're like, really? It's like, enough for me. Enough for me. It might not be enough for you if you've got a kid and a mansion down on such and such avenue and 3 car payments. And yeah, it probably isn't. But you have to structure your life, in my opinion, in a way that accommodates, who you are as a creative person, if that's who you believe, and what you're going to do about it. And I also live, until I left Trader Joe's, I had no problem going out and getting, quote unquote, a real job. And most of the time it was waiting tables and bartending. I would just do it until I got even more cash than I needed in order to do the thing that I wanted to do. So
the bottom line is everybody got to find your own way. When you're creating, maybe it's the last thing you're thinking of is like, is this going to be commercially viable? Like when a good idea pops into your head, you just think that maybe somebody will like it. I have to finish this, but everybody's different. We all look at it a different way. Like some people, like, Frazetta was very, he was very protective, and long term, right? He always wanted the rights to everything and all that. And you can see why nowadays, because now his estate anyway is in the driver's seat for all of this stuff, and they're doing what they want to do when they want to do it. It's kind of antithetical to some of these other stories that we're hearing. I mean, like take Crumb for example. The Fritz the Cat, he said, well, my wife negotiated that, and he's never been happy about it. And he thinks the whole project was a disaster. He lost control of it. And now there's an animated movie out there that sucks and Crumb hates. So, great, like object lesson right there. At the time, Crumb didn't want to think about it. He was doing other things, and he was going out with a lot of women and having a great time. And Dana was, he just handed it all off to his then wife, and that becomes part of the history, of these incredible iconic characters that we're all marveling over, even to this day. But but there's 2 different paths to go down. You can go down, like Bob Dylan. They talk about Bob Dylan, when he first met the Beatles, they were like, oh my God, what were you talking about? Like they were in a limo, and they, he famously gave them their first joint, as the story goes. And then, but when you see there's like this clip of Lennon and Dylan talking, and like, what are they talking about? And it's like, well, they were talking about the Mamas and the Papas are number 1 on the Billboard chart. But Dylan's like, no, you got to keep your own publishing. Like, what are you doing? And, at the time they were just like, just a couple of musicians in a car. But now it's like, wait a minute, you are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars for all those songs. So, it's a very interesting way to you have to look through multiple prisms when you're doing this kind of
and I believe the first and foremost one you need to establish, and it has nothing to do with art, is your value in this world. What do you bring to the table? I was blessed enough to get into an amazing art school for 4 years, MICA, Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore. Loved every moment and was very happy to get out, graduate. But I do remember struggling might be a little too dramatic, but having a lot of like crossroad times where I wasn't generating the income I knew I was valued at because I wasn't in like New York City or Baltimore or Washington, D.C. I had moved back to Wilmington, Delaware. But because I was the big fish in the little pond, I was able to negotiate other things. And the thing I found, and when I look back on my life, I have made very, very little money at art, but I have made my entire living at being creative, most specifically creative problem solving. Because I mean, I just, I love, like I said, I am more happy being a creative problem solver, like just having a problem, being like, oh, how do you do this? And how do you get this creatively, just pushing paint around. That's why I do the way I do my work now. I've always hated sitting down and doing one page after another in a template in order to secure a living from that. That's just not my thing. There are probably way more people out there than I that do enjoy that. In other words, they love the idea of just having a piece of paper, having the description of what it is they're supposed to make it, set it off to the side, approval paid, next, approval paid, next, approval paid, next. But the creativity thing is how I have always valued myself. And it's something I would put out there to anybody listening and coming across hearing this is if you are struggling in anything right now, excuse me, as a creative person or a person, just a person, then I would say stop and think about what you do bring as a value to where and whatever it is you want to do.
Right. So that was our business segment for today, folks. We're gonna switch gears. The chat's kind of quiet today. That's weird. So I did go out to the mall yesterday. I went to Newberry Comics, and I got 2 of these blind packs. They're 80% blind and 20% you can see here. So I'm not interested at all here in Medieval Spawn, but here there's one of these new EC comics that they're putting out, and I have flipped through these before, so now I own one, and I got 8 other comics here for the low price of $5.99. So you add tax to this, so basically I paid about 68 cents a comic, and I took this home. So I'm going to open one of these today, and you'll tell me when the best time is. But I bought 2 of these, and we just look at the covers, and we.
I would like to do as we're going to do with Ralph next week on the Indie Creator Exchange, the inception or the insertion of said segment that I can then cut out, which would just mean it would be like Jake's, comics that influence, Hall Unpack from Newberry, that kind of thing. You would just have to say, I want to start recording that right now and establish that, make your statement and then go on. And then we close it off. And then I go back and cut that out and turn it into an episode. Would love to do that. Would love to do that. So whenever you're ready.
Sounds great. And something else I was doing yesterday, which was amazing, was I was listening back to that segment that you posted. By the way, it's completely out of size proportion, because when you post it, you put the little Turbo Pit Fighter bug on it, and you post it, it gets like compressed because I'm on vertical, and then you're putting it on YouTube, which is horizontal, but it's still good, to watch. Or
just listen to. I think it was more listen. Well, it was kind of like listening was one thing, but you were like, everything was so graphically like there. I mean, and also too, Jake, that post has received the most comments on your Substack to date. I think you've
Okay.
got like 8 comments now. People are like, dude, yeah, great art, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's
Okay.
a winner. That's a winner. Chicken dinner.
There you go. So there's that. Another thing was I was, as I was talking I on the video. So I'm sitting on my couch and I'm drawing with a pad on my lap, and I said, you know what? Let me put some of this stuff on the Hellclaw page, which is where I keep all the writing, and I touched the microphone and I just put it up to the TV as I was talking, and it just I just grabbed the text by this method of just like capturing it. So that was interesting to do, and I was able to save a little bit of time on the typing end. But that it's not going to be perfect. You're going to need to do some editing, but you can, and then I just like put it on the Hellclaw, hit save. So that's another way for me to move a lot of this info around. Anyway, when I was you totally threw me off. What was we were talking about? Help me out here. Well, let's screw it. Let's get back. I don't know what I was going to start this whole thing. Oh yeah, a couple of different things. So yesterday I did go to the mall, and when I was looking at these comic shelves, I saw some interesting stuff. I took a couple of photos. I bought these 2 multi-packs. I was about to buy a couple of other comics there, but I'll show you why I didn't. Let me get rid of this. And here's something I saw I was going to buy. So they not only have the new issue of Fire and Ice out, number 4.
Ooh.
Really good art inside.
Yeah.
Like this cover is a little bit different from the inside style. The inside style is great, and I have a copy. But here's the problem. I was gonna buy this. It was only $4.99, which is decent for a floppy nowadays.
Dude, it's written by Willingham. Holy shit! How are they all written by Willingham?
Good question. Look, this guy's split open already by
that's
by the
Lisner, man. You can't lose with a Lisner.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's signed right here.
Joseph
Lisner.
Michael Lisner.
And look what year he did. Look what year. This is interesting. He did this 2 years ago, at least.
Could have been like fan art or something.
So I didn't buy it.
What?
because look, you have this crease in it, and Newberry Comics is such a stupid layout and such a dumb layout for all the comics. They're all on top of each other, and they leave it to the customer to just like move them all around so that you can see what's in there. The only way you could see Fire and Ice comic on display is if you go to the miscellaneous F tab and you flip through a bunch of comics, which means that the customers are all pushing the top of the comic forward to see what's back there, and they're freaking bending the comics. So now I don't want to buy any of them because they're not in good condition. Now here's another thing that I saw. A number 1 that they're putting out.
Yeah, Necron.
Yeah, I wonder if Fire and Ice number 4 is just a reissue, or reprint of something that came out in 03 or 04, because at the same time I'm seeing Necron number 1, and it's all different insides. It's great art. I was just about to buy it, but again, look at this. You can see a really good picture of it. Spine damage.
Wow.
Why do we have to have spine damage on a brand new comic? So whoever's running Newberry Comics, it's idiotic the way you have the display set up. And don't tell me you don't have enough space in that store. You just need like another rack, and you need to flatten some of these things out, because these things are like 20 deep. They're piled 20 deep just to see a stupid comic. All right, now I'm going to complain a little bit. I'm going to rant and rave here. this is the kind of crap, and I think we're both in agreement that is on the shelves right now. Marvel and DC have hooked up again. They do this periodically, and they made a comic called Batman Deadpool, but on the cover it's freaking Storm and Wonder Woman. I have no idea why a Batman Deadpool comic, which is the insides, has these characters on the front. I don't get it. And I think they're just like they're just using any art that's lying around for hire. Now, here's another copy of the same comic. And you tell me, now, this is cool art. This artist, I recognize the artist. I'm gonna zoom in for a second to see if I can get their name. But it's a drawing of Big Barda and Poison Ivy on a Batman Deadpool comic, #1. Why?
Is that Rogue? That's Rogue. I don't think that's Poison Ivy.
That's Rogue. Right. One has got to be Marvel, one has got to be DC. So that, yeah, right. She's got the X there. That's Rogue. Excuse me. And the artist is right here. They wrote their name. How do I read this? Z-E-L? I don't know. These are weird characters. It looks like a familiar art style. It's a good art style. It reminds me of Peter Chang and Aeon Flux. But I don't get it, man. You tell me what I'm even looking at. Like, so here I took a little pop of this, and this is kind of cool. So they're reissuing New Gods #1. I don't know if they're going to do the whole series, but you can buy a Jack Kirby New Gods floppy, New Gods #1. And this is one of those editions where they reprint the whole comic with the original ads. And I think that's the better way of the two. The way they're doing it is like you can have like modern up-to-date ads and modern coloring, or you can just go with the original. They're basically just doing like, high-res scans in color. And I don't know what happens with the halftone dot, because if you scan an already printed comic with a halftone dot in it, you get a different dot, and you might get a moire pattern. But this is a cool #1, reprint, and there's no mention anywhere of the fact that it's now it's 2026 and we're reprinting something that came out in like the early 70s. The only thing that's different is that the price here, and look, a very, very reasonable $3.99. I think that's very reasonable for a comic nowadays. So they're reprinting it, and it's all the old original ads, back cover, inside back cover, so the kids today can see what it used to look like. So just showing that. The other thing I have here on my slideshow, so I'm looking for those Fire and Ice. I'm going to go to a good comic store and see if I can pick those up. Fire and Ice #4 and Fire and Ice Necron #1. These Batman and Deadpools, like, I just wanted to show it here. I'm like literally deleting it right now. I could care less, but why? I mean, this looks so boring. Like, to see Storm and Wonder Woman on a cover by some good artist, then you open it up and it's a Batman comic. Like, I don't get it. The last thing I have here on my photos is this Dark Horse comic that I came across, and it's very, very nice. It's called Kali, and it's a revenge story about a biker chick. And it seems like a really good graphic novel to pick up. Written by Daniel Friedman and illustrated by Robert Samelin. And if you like B movies and B movie She Devils is our idea, this looks like a great comic, great art in and out, pretty good story, maybe a little derivative, like a biker gang. She's left behind by her mates, and she goes on a revenge tour, trying to figure out why they dumped her. So I took a photo of that so I could be on the lookout for Kali, Kali, because it looks like good story and art. It just looks like good story and art. This is me and my band playing on Friday night, not this weekend, last weekend. at On Our Shrunken Head, and we're gonna eventually post a couple of these little clips. They're not full songs, but this is what it looks like when the Von Ghouls are going. You can't see the keyboard player, but somebody was telling me that I just don't promote my band enough, and I have to mention it and stuff. And if anybody wants some cool garage punk, go to vonghouls.com, and all of our music's online, or you can buy our record. Still have plenty of vinyl left. 2 EPs, and we have a couple T-shirts left. We're almost out of the entire T-shirt run. It's almost over. But yeah, just had an interesting week, and trying to be as creative as I can. I did that live stream and live draw, and I also yesterday went out to see, drum roll please, Avatar: Fire and Ash.
Ta-da!
So what's your are you anticipating going out and seeing that in the movies, Kurt? Or are you gonna wait till it's on cable, or are you gonna skip the whole thing? Where are you at with the Avatar 3?
I've only done Avatar 1. I just haven't really. I've watched Avatar 1, 2, if not 3 times, and yeah, I find it to be a little too Disney for me. And that means like happy endings and
predictable.
Everything works. Yep, everything works out. As soon as an element's inserted, I can start predicting how the story's going to go, and it does, and everything. Special effects, like off the freaking wall. Would love to see it in like an IMAX or even just a regular movie theater, but just never resonates for me. But it's funny because he was just interviewed by one of the guys I watch podcasts who does a lot of they do like a lot of really good questioning and in-depth interviewing for high profile people, and they did James Cameron, and really really good, like how much honesty he had, how many marriages, 5 marriages, and how he was just very self-absorbed, and just because he had to, because but I still find it to be like his playground for special effects, which I think is totally cool. It's just not something that I connect to. And I'll tell you this too, not to go on too much of a rant, but I wish it leaned way more into Roger Dean's like album cover art, in the sense like the world that Roger Dean was able to create through these images that were just so otherworldly and engaging. But I think he had a run-in. James Cameron had a run-in with Roger Dean, who sued for the likeness, I guess, of his art in being used, and especially the dragons. Like the dragons are complete ripoff of, I can't remember which Yes cover it is, but I kind of wish it wasn't so slick and digital, and it had a little bit more of like a 70s illustrated painting, or even just a 70s film stock kind of like feel. Like that would be super fucking cool.
It's funny you say that, because that was something that I thought was really really weird, is that it's been a couple years since the last Avatar was out. It was like The Way of the Water or something, and this one was called Fire and Ash, because there's these ash people, or these ash tribe or whatever that they fight. But there was this very weird kind of like videotape effect on the entire movie.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it looked like it. And you know how like some of the shots nowadays in movies are very handheld looking, like as if it's like off a device of somebody in the boat with them or whatever, and it's real moving around and stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of that. A very lot of that, and there was also this kind of like videotape quality, and I don't know if it's because I was watching it in the laser vision theater,
Laser
as opposed to the IMAX version or the, whatever, like you can't just watch a plain movie. You're watching an AMC laser vision, right?
Yep.
Whatever that means. But it was really videotapey looking to me.
Wow.
Like the way that videotape has a very, very sharp kind of like sharpness, like when you're putting a sharpness filter on something. Yeah, and I was just scratching my head the whole time about that. So there was that. The other elephant in the room is that it's extremely long at 3 hours and 15 minutes. So I was sitting with a friend, and like he literally couldn't hang out after it was done, get a bite to eat or anything, because he had to go to work. And it goes to show, like, this is a long movie. You have to block out a day. You have to block out some time to go see this. Like, I couldn't see this with my brother at all because he can't leave his dog alone that long. He's still training a dog in a crate, and he can't leave the thing alone for 3.5 hours. He can only see like a 2-hour movie. And by the end of 3 hours, audiences today are very fatigued because we're very short attention span audiences now. I say we, people out there, including me. But I will tell you that they definitely have a hit. If you go on Reddit and you're looking at like reactions to the movie, you have your people, like you, that are like, yeah, I'm kind of like arm's distance from Avatar. I saw the first one and then I checked in with the second one, and I'm not running to see the third one. You have all that going on, but they have a hit with this new bad guy female character. All the nerds on Reddit that were raving about the movie were just like, I can't get enough of her. Like she's the greatest character, even though she's a bad guy. They want to see her, and she just drawn just like the other one. She's tall and slinky, and and she has like,
who plays her? Who's the voice of the character?
That's a good question.
Already, Jake, you've sold me on this movie. I don't know if this is a first, but like the two things that seeing something a little bit more grainy, like you said, the video kind of failing or effect that you saw, but the the female baddie being lovable. I mean, that is my wheelhouse.
It is, yeah, it is, and
love that shit.
And there's you are right also, like the predictability of it, and some of the stuff is kind of violent and maybe like a little distressing if you have little kids, like the killing and especially like the animals, like they're killing and maiming all these animals, and they're just wiping them out, and like there is some cruelty that's portrayed by the humans, that are trying to invade Pandora for all their resources. But they have a real hit with this character. I'll find her name right here. But yeah, I probably have to go back to Reddit. And then the rest is just a lot of the same. So, expect exactly what you saw in the first one and the second one. The second one built on the first one with this whole water world. And the third one kind of combines the two, and they bring out these ash people. But I've never seen such great CGI creating these worlds.
Yeah, you can't
making it look not fake. Yeah. One of the characters is a little fake. There's like this young Sigourney character right here, this one, and some of the story stuff is a little hokey, where they have magic powers and they put their little ponytails into the ground and they connect with the big tree, and the ground and the roots are all connected. And it's all, all these great wholesome messages about nature versus industrialization. But, expect all the predictability of a big Hollywood, mainstream plot, because these Avatar movies are the biggest grossing movies
ever. Like trillions, going to hit like $1 trillion.
Right. I'm sure the first Avatar has made $1 trillion because Avengers Endgame hit $1 trillion. So Avatar is above that.
I love that word trillion, man. It's gonna be $1 trillion.
No. We don't mean trillion. We don't mean trillion. We mean billion. $1 billion is a lot per movie. Yeah, we mean billion. Hundreds of millions. So Endgame. Sorry, I got confused for a second. Endgame crossed the $1 billion, and so Avatar 1 must have, if not, I think 2 also did. But we're not talking about trillions. We're talking about $1 billion. And that's a lot of money for a movie. You know, you imagine, you know, some of these movies cost hundreds of millions to make.
$1 trillion. They cost $1 trillion.
A zillion.
$1 zillion. They cost $1 zillion to make this money.
And funny enough, I'm sitting yesterday watching these cover bands, these tribute bands. And I'm sitting down talking to this random old guy. It seemed like he's a little older than me. And super nice guy. And you know, we're just like, you know, we're just sitting next to each other and watching this music. And guess what his son does for a living? He was working on the first Avatar and I was like, well, you know, what's his role? What does he do? And he was like, I don't know what you call it. He plays with computers, you know? So, you know, because this is like an old-fashioned old guy. But he was clearly a CGI guy, you know, this guy's son. And that was his only credit, you know, because he's working on it for years.
Yeah,
He didn't say how many years, but I got the sense it was like 5 or 10 years that he was working on Avatar. So, you know, that these are they're good paying jobs. You know, he said the kid was making a ton of money. Kid, you know, he's in his 20s, but he was making good money, and you know, and he's in a creative field. So I love it. And what are the chances that I go to see Avatar, then I go over just to see some music, and I'm sitting next to a guy whose son was on the team for the first Avatar. And anyway, so yeah, that's my review. You know, I'm not gonna spoil like who lives, who dies, all that, but you know, there's you know, a continuing franchise with the Avatar, you know, idea, and they have a pretty good thing cooking, and you know, I see it going on forever, you know, after James Cameron is long gone, and you know, people will just be continuing probably to, you know, continue his storylines and his whole world that he developed. But you know, but it was an interesting 3 hours. Like I wasn't upset when I came out of there, you know. And these characters, these slinky blue people, are just so amazing to look at. It's like, you know, James Cameron's ideal for humanoid beings, you know, to just be really, really tall. They have 4 fingers instead of 5. They have little fangs. They have the blue skin with stripes on it, like a freaking eel or something. And they have long hair with a ponytail that has little fibers in it that connects to nature. So, all good, you know, all good. You know, I think some of the, you know, some of the plot, you know, it leaves you a little wanting. You know, you can figure things out ahead of time. You know, that kind of stuff. I think that's what you meant by Disney fare, right? It's like just a little like mainstream, predictable. You know, good guy always wins, that type of stuff. But yeah, you know, it's how they get there, which is the great fun. So yeah. And so that was that. And did you see any sci-fi this week or?
No, I've been trickling back to the old B movies, like the Roger Corman sword and sorcery stuff. So I'm probably going to get. I did watch some of that Satanic. It's funny how the teaser really teased the hell out of me. And then, you know, you get into this movie, and, you know, back in the biggest criticism I have for the 70s is you were getting paid by the length of entertainment. Like,
Right.
you know, you had what was it? Was it a Showtime running? Was like over an hour or something like that, and so they would add footage, or you know, when they purposely would let actors, they would just linger on the actor for a couple more seconds, just to
Yeah.
keep packing. It was the same thing with paperback novels. Like
You see
most of the
somebody
paper,
walking down a street, like a whole
yeah,
like
yeah,
walking down the
yeah.
street.
You're like, oh my God, really? Like, how many times have I seen Rome, in the 70s? You know what I mean? Like, and it's probably the same three pieces of like B roll. Paperbacks the same way. Like most paperbacks, I could write out at least a quarter of the exposition. And I've done this actually with a chapter or two. Like, I just like cut out this chunk of explanative and this little chunk of like dilly dally, and then
Yeah.
reread it and was like, fucking better.
Yeah.
So I did back out of it, which was, kind of disappointing. But I do have a lot of those Italian Supermen movies still in like watch later. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm either gonna watch was it Amazon Queen
Ooh.
or Warrior Queen. Now the Warrior Queen has Sybil Dannings and Donald Pleasance, just as the title card pull. I did kind of like watch some trailers on it this morning. It's like, all right, like, okay. We'll see what happens. But I don't know. I might end up like digging down more into this Avatar stuff, just especially because I'm burning up to know who the female lead
Oh yeah.
is in like context to thing. Raz 5055 is with us down in
Hey
the
Raz.
chat. So
Yes, if you saw Avatar Fire and Ash, that's what we were talking about. And just geeking out on some sci-fi. It's fun to go to the movies. We talk a lot about we're willing to watch a downright bad movie,
yep.
even if it's a nowadays movie. Like I'll sit there and watch a horror movie with my daughter, but but then just discussing it, what makes it good, what makes it bad, um and what makes characters likable, even if they're good or bad. um that's what I love about movies. It's like, thinking about it afterwards and getting some inspiration from it, you know
Yeah.
and James Cameron, I keep thinking about what he's involved in. I can't separate the man from, because every time I'm watching his thing, and you notice like his second Avatar movie went like to this whole like underwater thing. In real life, James Cameron is mapping the ocean floor with
Yep.
these custom high pressure unmanned submarines that he's built. And like, this is the guy that literally discovered the Titanic
Yep.
underground on the
Yep.
bottom of the sea.
And map that. So the Titanic, they actually have a full like I forget what scale it is, but it's a digitally
Yeah, scanned. Yeah,
printed. No, but if they physically have it as like
sure.
it's just, yeah. I mean, he's
But do you know
definitely
that?
an over the top tour.
Yeah, well, do you know that they say that 90% of the species that live on the bottom of the ocean floor are unknown.
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah, I watch one of my YouTube channels. It's called Nauticus,
yeah,
and it's just a probe that these young scientists or marine biologists. It's usually like anywhere from 2, 3, or 4 of them, and they're all just going. They come across like whale and shark carcasses, and like all this kind of stuff. The best one is the whale carcass, because they had like weeks of like filming and checking out all the creatures that would come at different stages of the deterioration of a whale carcass, which is the most bountiful food producer in the ocean. it's like like if you were to screw up the planet, like if you really wanted to screw up the planet, you would kill all of the whales. You would make it impossible for whales to live in our.
That's exactly what we did. What we did.
Right. Like, but you don't hear anybody talking about it. But like the central organism that is the whale and everything it does.
Well, the blubber was always really
crazy.
come out of it. So, yeah, and they talk about that in the Avatar movie. They're not whales per se; they're these big sea creatures, but you know they remind you of whales a little bit, and they you know they have some fluid in them that they extract, and it's like the most $100 billion worth of some naturally occurring chemical in the whales oil in the creature's oil that they're mining. So that's why they're after it, and they want to do this big hunt, and they want to get all the mothers and calves together, and it's really cruel. So that's the movie. That was the second episode. I would recommend seeing the second episode before you see the latest one. Do a big catch up. If you haven't seen it, because I was there with somebody that only saw the first one, and he was like, I don't know what's going on, and I was like, don't worry, because I don't know what's going on either. But that's just my bad memory. I saw these freaking movies, but it was like 7 years ago. So.
Jake, I gotta jump out. I'll be right back.
All right. So so we spoke a little bit about business. We spoke a little bit about I went to the comic store and I got some new stuff. And I think when Kurt comes back, we'll unpack the mystery bag I bought, and we'll see what's in there. Hopefully it's something good. You never know. You could get pleasantly surprised with one of these grab bags. I noticed that the comic stores have a lot of blind bags nowadays, and I think that's like you're buying a comic that has multiple variant covers, but you just don't know which one you're going to get. I think that's what the blind bags are. I hear dealers talking about the blind bags. But I don't know if that's exactly what it is.
Do you want to go into your segment?
Sure.
Why don't you? And like I said, the only thing I need you to do is two things: set it up and close it out. So then I know, and I'm actually going to write down the time for each one. So when then I go to the edit, all I have to do is just find those two time signatures to be able to cut it out and edit it quickly. So go for it.
Not a problem. So I got 2 multi-packs, $5.99 at Newbury Comics in the Palisades Mall. I live next to one of the big malls, and I'm just gonna move this down a little bit so we can get some room to work with here. Let me try and adjust my camera like this. Better.
Yeah, and you'll get full screen.
Yeah, and I'm also going to raise my arm up a little bit, which I do sometimes, so we can see the whole thing better. So I complain a lot about Newbury Comics. I lost my wallet late last year, and I lost my gift card. It still had at least 100 something. Kurt, I think you did it the other way around. You're the big screen on my end anyway. I don't know
really
how it's going out. Yeah. But I complain a lot about Newbury Comics because there's nothing good. They have all the Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, all that kind of stuff. They have graphic novels. They have plushies, merchandise. They sell a lot of manga. I mean, I think that's probably their number one thing now. And the regular comics are just such an afterthought. They put them on these 2 shelves. It's all crowded and overstocked. And you can't even look through what's there without damaging comics. And I feel bad because I never want to damage a comic. So I pull out like miscellaneous T, miscellaneous U, miscellaneous V. I just pull out the whole thing and I sort through it on my lap and then put the whole thing back. but some people just bend the comics to get a look at what's there, and you're just damaging people's comics. It's insane, and it's totally the fault of the store for doing it that way, because you got to let people you have room to see what they're doing. So what happens when they have too many comics and they haven't sold? Well, they make these multi-packs and they just get rid of them for pennies on the dollar. And I don't know if they're taking a loss or if this is what they actually pay, 65 cents roughly a piece, including tax for me. So they're selling it for $5.99 for 10, and you can only see the first one and the last one. Everything else, you're shooting blind. So let's see what we ended up with, shall we? So we got Cruel Universe here, which is it says, this is comics that are being reissued in the EC, under the EC brand, an entertaining comic. Somebody bought the rights for the EC publishing, imprint, and that's fine. As long as it's quality. And this is what it looks like. So you get, to me, this is just a wasted page. And this is too. You could do this all on one page, the table of contents and the indicia. So they're just like, fluffing and filling here, if you ask me. Kurt, I can't really see my spread because I'm in the small box, but
really?
I'm just going with it.
I keep flipping around. Here, I'll turn it off. Then.
Is there something I need to do? No.
No. I'm like moving the screens around, but yeah, I can edit it. That you're the main screen, so sorry.
All right, so here is, and then here, like, there's another like pinup, and this just looks like entertain. This is just like an EC pinup. So it looks like they're really trying to stretch here. Now you get to the story, and it looks like good art, and there's some gore here, nice coloring. But now it's over. So this is just like a 5-pager. Cruel Universe contents. I have an alien in my basement. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 6-pager. And it goes really quick. Here, and so I guess these are all 6-pagers in here. And, when you get to the end, you have some extra pages. So 6 times 3 is only 18. Let's see what they do here. Yeah, so now they're talking about, here's a suicide PSA. Now here's a letters page. So, yeah, you don't get a lot of pages in here, and then a bunch of ads. So they have Cruel Universe. They have Blood Type. And they have Epitaphs from the Abyss. And they have Cruel Kingdom, which I think I also bought a copy of in the other pack. And so it's a decent anthology, but the you only get 3 6-pagers and then a bunch of like letters pages. I want to say I'd like to see more interior pages of original art and story for my money than 18 pages. Just me, but it's good paper quality and nice prestige printing format. So this is why I'm happy I paid 60 something cents for this, because it's I flipped through these and they're like it's good quality, but it's just there's no one recurring character, and it's a little thin. Look at this, a virgin cover of Conan the Barbarian.
Damn, that's worth a lot.
Titan comic. I don't know what it's worth. I have no idea, but it's a really nice drawing. I wonder if this is AI. That face looks a little AI to me. I wonder. I'm suspicious sometimes.
Yeah, that's all of us are now. It's a shame.
But yeah, is this? No, this is. I'm trying to see if this is like ink damage or if this is printed. I think this is I think this is printed on there. There's like some white spots here. So what do you know about Titan Comics?
Zero.
Well, I've seen them around. They're a small company, mid tier. They're licensing Conan. So I'm wondering if this is like a spin-off of one of the other publishers, like Dynamite or Boom, or something like that. There's also these comic stores which then take on, some publishing stuff. But Titan Comics is from London, and they have copyrights for Conan Properties International, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Cimmerian, Hyboria, the Savage Sword of Conan, and related logos, characters, names are trademarks of CPI, Conan Properties International. So they're licensing here, which can't be cheap. I don't know if that's a royalty deal or if they have to pay up front, and then you have a risk of losing money. Interesting questions. So I'm just going to flip through. This is good. Everyone's trying to be John Buscema, I think. Modern day coloring, but pretty good. This is good, Conan story stuff, Conan fare. The question is, like, how many pages do you get? There's some letters pages here in the back. Here's all, the cover gallery. So let's see which one I have, because these might be all the same rarity. And it looks like TitanComics.com is only doing Conan. And they're even reprinting the Marvel Conans that came out under Marvel, except if you look real closely, it says Conan Comics Group. And I remember this coming out under Marvel. And then these are the Savage Sword of Conan's come out under Marvel. These are all Marvel, but they replace Conan. So look at this. They have the Barry Windsor Smith Conan #1, you can see here. And it's available as a remastered, oversized omnibus edition. But they took out Marvel Comics and they wrote Conan Comics Group. And these are all classic Conans from the 70s. And then you get to the 80s and the 90s. And what the hell? Like, how can you just... I guess that's the agreement with Marvel, that they just replace it, and they're repackaging their stuff.
Why? It's not an agreement. Once the licensing you've lost the licensing, you don't have any rights over what it is that you publish.
Yeah, but you can't put out Marvel Comics without an agreement.
No, of course not. Why would you?
Well, they are.
Huh?
Look, I'm in an ad for Titan Comics, which is a British
I understand.
So now remember, this is overseas.
But it's no longer owned by Marvel, that comic book.
No, Marvel never owned Conan. They made a comic, which was a licensing deal, which is a collaboration between a publisher and a license holder. And, going back to Conan #1, and TitanComics.com, which is a British company, has made a deal with both Conan Properties International, CPI, and Marvel in order to remaster these oversized omnibus editions of Conan #1, Conan. Oh, these are all omnibuses. So these are like collecting everything. And I just thought it was weird that in order to reprint the cover, or the original cover, that they just replaced the word Marvel, if you can see real small here, with Conan Comics Group. And the rest of the cover is the exact same art as it appeared as a Marvel publication. I think that's very interesting. I have never seen anything like that. And so that's why I mentioned it. Now here you got all these modern Conans, comics and collections, volume 1 through 4 of Conan the Barbarian. And I think this is Titan Comics, original stuff. You never know what you're going to find in the back of a comic, like checking out the ads. This is so interesting because you're going through decades of Conan material. And it might be because they're British, that they struck a deal to put this stuff out in another, country, because international waters are all different. But I'd love to have this all explained to me by somebody in the know. TitanComics.com, Titan-Comics.com. These are all available. And I wonder how much the oversized omnibus of all the Barry Windsor Smith Conans are. Wouldn't you like to find out a price on that? So now we get to the covers gallery, and they have a Dan Panosian cover, which I have, Maria Wolf, Jay Gonzo, and Brandon Kenny. It looks like there's 8 different covers. I have what the hell difference between one of these is a foil cover and one of these is a FOC cover. I don't know what FOC
About
is.
$80.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How many comics does it compile? Because by the time you get to,
I think it's
by the time you get to volume 2, it's not Barry Windsor Smith anymore on the cover. It's Gil Kane.
He did like the first. It's 2. Whoa, that's wow. Holy smokes! It is hardcover.
Wow.
October 2024. 784 pages, which is pretty much the entire run, I think,
of all the Barry Windsor Smith. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to see what this little number is, and my little eyes can't do it, but I think we're in the 20s here. So maybe it's Conan 1 through 20, or something like that. And then you get to like 21. I don't know. Like this looks like 88 by the time you get to volume 4. So maybe it's more than 20. I mean, I don't know how they group it, but 7, it sounds like a pretty good deal. $80, 700 pages, hardcover. Do they have those in the States? I got to go to Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Well, actually, it's $150 on mycomicshop.com. And then they have different cover versions. Like there's a second edition. Well, there's a cover B, which it's Jesus.
Well, they don't say what. Speaking of covers, they don't say what rarity I just got for 60 cents, but it's the virgin cover, and it's one of 8. And I imagine the foil cover has some rarity to it because it's more expensive to produce. And then here you have the San Diego Comic-Con foil cover by Dan Panosian that was only available at the San Diego Comic-Con. So, there's no perceptible difference between this regular cover A and this, except that it's printed in foil. So I'm happy about this. So I would say it's 2 for 2 so far. Let's see, number 3 here. I have another Titan comic, and it's Conan, Scourge of the Serpent by Zub, Gill, and Canola. I have cover D here, which doesn't look great. It looks like a pencil sketch that somebody colorized on the computer, right? It's kind of rough and sketchy. I'm not that into pencil sketch covers, personally. But if it's rare, okay, I'll go with that. And so here, let's see if there's any more information, because this is put out in October of 2025, and the comics and collections, it's the same thing, except they're out of volume number 1. Look at this, Kurt. The volume number 1 is no longer there. Neither is volume 2 or 3. They're all sold out on the website.
Done.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Funny. So get your hands on it while you can. $70. Wow. All right. So here we're just going through another Conan comic, and this is this good artist. I've seen him before. What's his name? Let's get his name.
Like Cord.
It's the writer is Grim Jim Zub, and the artist is Ironclad Ivan Gill.
Whoa.
Ivan Gill. That's a real comic name, Ivan Gill. And yeah, he's channeling John Buscema. I've seen him before. Some nudity with Conan, and I want to count these pages and see how much a Conan comic nowadays has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, that's the minimum. To me, that's the bare minimum. 22 pages, of a Marvel DC comic. You can pre-order now this Conan posable figure. You can get on the wait list, limited edition. And it doesn't say who's putting it out, but it's at conan.com/waitlist, fig waitlist. And then the cover gallery here, I have cover D by Matias Bergara, I wish I would have got this Jeff Isherwood cover. He's really good.
He's
All of
old
these,
school.
all of these are good. Oh, actually, I think I got a copy of this in this pile. Yeah. So there's only 7. No, there's only 7 covers here. There's a blank sketch cover. I guess that counts. A foil cover, and then Comic Shop Day exclusive black and white cover. I don't get it, man, with the whole covers. I mean, I know I'm playing the same game here as everybody else, getting all hooked in. Ooh, what did I get? What did I get? But Kurt, I was saying they're having these blind bag comics now, where you don't know which cover you're gonna get, and you're just kind of like rolling dice. Are you into that? I'd rather pick the cover. Right?
No,
But
sir.
the good news is you might get a rare cover, which is like, which is conceivably worth more money. I don't know if you buy into any of that crap.
Nope.
Here's Captain Planet, Virgin cover, stiff paper, Captain Planet and the Planeteers. I don't know very much about, but I think they were a cartoon on TV.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're being licensed by Dynamite. And it says here that it's being licensed from Warner Brothers and Turner Entertainment, all related characters and elements. So they're making, so this is volume 1, issue 2 of Captain Planet and the Planeteers. And this art looks a little CG to me. There's, I don't know. You can't tell what came from and what's not. Not a huge fan. There's tons of ads in this Dynamite comic. Space Ghost, Thundercats, all of this stuff. They all have 20 covers. It's all tons of ads and licensing and properties. I'm not seeing anything really exciting on this comic here. I see a lot of big white word balloons. I'm being a little critical. I mean, the artist is a fine artist. It's just not. It doesn't have that it factor for me. And I see a lot of talking heads. I also don't see a very big page count, but I haven't sorted through all the ads yet. Here's the Thundercats with Powerpuff Girls. I actually like this better. I don't know why. It looks like a Saturday morning cartoon style, but something about this I like. Here's the Powerpuff Girls all by themselves in a comic book. I wonder how that's selling. I know that some of my students like the Powerpuff Girls.
I love the Powerpuff Girls.
You do not love the Powerpuff.
I do. When they came out on Cartoon Network, I was completely captivated. Jake, let's rewind the tape here, because when they were coming out, dude, that was all Flash animation style. And that was the thing that got me so... The graphic and the motion of those, and it's all simple shapes. And they're like, they have these cute little voices, and each one has a sassy little attitude and stuff. It is masterfully done. And I believe that's Gendry Tarkovsky or what have you, who does Primal, Samurai Jack, if I'm remembering right. And he's like the godfather of animation, I think, right now in the world. Okay. So I'm no joke. I think if aesthetically, Powerpuff Girls is probably one of the first places you should go to study animation and motion and graphics.
Well, let me not poo-poo the Powerpuff Girls.
No, you can. No, you can. I'm not trying to persuade you.
Now that we're going there, I get my taste. No poo-poo, no Powerpuff poo-poo. Is that what I will say is that it's an extremely accessible style. If you're an artist and you have a repeatable style, but you can't draw human anatomy, you're not great with realism and drawing from observation, this is a great style to work in, and there's no reason why you can't tell stories that are just every bit as good as a superhero team, like the Avengers or whatever, and tell your story, but you just use a very simplified art style. Now I'm going to say the same thing for Keith Haring. I'm going to say the same thing for South Park, that there's a lot of different artists and a lot of different styles. And some people just have a very simplified cartoony style. But if it's repeatable, you can go with it. And Powerpuff Girls obviously has built an empire, off of this style. So
you remember
who am I
Dexter's Laboratory? You
Yeah.
remember that one?
Yeah.
I think actually Powerpuff Girls was inside that. Same thing, dude. Same thing.
Right.
Like we were just coming out of Flash animation, and I was looking to up my game, and that cartoon showed up, and I couldn't get enough of it. Had the T-shirt, the whole thing, man.
So it looks like Dynamite. There's Dynamite Comics, and then there's Boom Studios. Two different things. Everything's like explosives. Dynamite is really digging in with the licensed characters. You got Captain Planet #2 here, and then there's ads. They have multiple Thundercats series. They're doing Space Ghost, which was Alex Toth, I believe, right? Which was a great. So that has great potential. And they're probably having to pay licensing fees, or they're probably having to split any profits that they might make. I don't know how those deals are arranged, but they don't own the characters, and so they finding it a successful model to use licensed characters because it brings people to the table, and then you're making the content, you're creating the stories, and you're just splitting the revenues somehow with the license holder, or in some cases you're doing them a favor just by keeping it in print, which is just kind of kicking the can down the road for maybe when they get something that's more profitable, like a movie deal or a cartoon series or something. But we spoke about this on Public Domain Day, which is January 1st, that there's so many characters that you can license for free now. Anything made in 1930 and before, you don't have to pay any licensing for, as long as you're doing it legally within the guidelines of keeping everything from 1930 and before. Thundercats, here's like serious Thundercats, and here's cartoony Thundercats, right? It's a lot of different styles here, and here's Thundercats Lost. So I'm seeing 4 different Thundercats ads in this one magazine, right? No, 3. So there's a lot of they're really going in on a lot of Thundercat stuff, which is cool. Some of the art I've seen is really good, but it's just a tie-in. And here's all the freaking covers. There's too many to go over here. There's just like a whole page of covers. So I got the Virgin face cover, and this is a 10 copy incentive cover, Virgin art by Ben Oliver. So every comic store that got this cover had to buy 10 copies in order to get it, and then you get the one with this cover. And I don't know if that's in addition to the 10, or and this is 11, or if this is one of the 10. But I want to note, Kurt, my exact complaint from before. If you can look carefully here, you're looking at the spine. This is a black cover on heavy cardstock, very heavy cardstock.
They creased it.
They freaking creased it because somebody is bending it forward as they're tickling through to see the comics in the rack. Yep. And the way the racks are designed, they're damaging the goddamn comics. And so,
sorry, Jake.
So now I have a reader's copy. Anyway,
are you still on the first bag that you bought? Like,
only doing one bag. I'm only doing one.
It's bag. All this is one bag. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we just finished comic number 4. We had just to review. We had 2 Conans. We had 1 EC, and then we had Captain Planet. And I'm finding it interesting to talk about these publishers. I really am. This is back to EC, another one. We don't have to spend too much time. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but I just want to take a peek at each of the 6-pagers. It looks like they're using the same guys for these 3 titles. So this is artist Patrick Piazzalunga, which sounds like it could be from Europe, to Italy or Spain or something.
Hoboken.
Artist Dan McDade and artist David Lapham. And oh, this one has 4 stories in it. And guess what? Oh, because one of them was a reprint. So the 4th story, it says writer William M. Gaines and Al Feldstein, and artist Graham Ingalls. So obviously that was from the 50s. So there's some real EC in here coming up, which is cool. Let's go see that one. So I guess this is better if it has 3 new 6-pagers, right? And these are all of kind of like good to middling art quality. I actually like this one. This one looks like it's a lot of action going on and horrific stuff. This is a weird style right here. Oh no, it gets a little less interesting. But then we get to a reprint here, and I assume they're recoloring this. Look how heavy on text this is, because they were using these lettering stencils in those days.
Whew.
Or I don't know if it was a stencil or if they were using a phototypositor and the kind of like this photographic kind of like this photographic process to make these letters. And if you have this machine in-house, you can just be doing this all day. The problem is you do not get to change the line spacing and or the size. So it's all caps, and the word spacing is very, very wasteful, and the line spacing, I would say it's a little wasteful, maybe like a third. And then it ends up making these giant text blocks, which is literally half the page on some of these pages, depending how much the writer is saying. And what they needed to do is they need to Twitterize it and just shorten everything, same meaning but less words. The art is great, but a lot of talking heads, and then you have this surprise ending. So I'm glad for this one. 5. Number 6, Biker Mice from Mars, from a Nacelverse story. So the company is called Nacelverse, and it's Melissa Flores and Daniel Getty. And I've never heard of this publisher before. Oh, it's Oni Press. So this is Nacelverse is like a sub imprint for Oni Press, and we've all heard of Oni Press. They've been around for a long time. I think they do a lot of importing. They're in Portland, Oregon, from Oni-Lion Forge Publishing Group. That's what it's called now. So Oni Press merged with Lion Forge Publishing Group. Interesting. And they're putting out these biker mice from Mars. Obviously a take on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're still doing these kind of like homages or spin-off, reimaginings of anthropomorphic characters that form a team.
They want to steal the success of having a successful toy, cartoon, and movie line. That's what they're
right. But why does
they're trying to reinvent it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember from Teenage Mutant Turtles, they have a hit on their hands. Now you have the other one was like radioactive hamsters, and I've seen dozens of these, right?
Yep.
And we're still going to this day. So I guess this is a genre now. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles genre. But it's not Teenage Mutant. It's like somebody else. I mean, I think this Melissa Flores is a name. I want to say that's ringing a bell as a name in the industry, as a writer. So this might be actually, it looks like great Road Warrior content here. I see motorcycles. I see it's well drawn. I see a Mobius influence. I see a manga influence. Antics are definitely ensuing. And there's plenty of action here. Pretty decent production quality. I think the colors are a little too colorful for me, but the drawing style is great. It lends itself, and here we got some emotional beats and some, and there's a nice page count here, and this is number 1. So now we got the ad here for number 2, and it's Biker Mice on Mars, from Mars. And I don't know, maybe I'm looking down my nose at it when I should be embracing it. Maybe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles genre is a great, worthwhile genre. The Nacelverse. I mean, these guys are working hard making this stuff. That's for sure. What happens now? So now we flip back over the other way, and on the other side, it's a RoboForce story. I've seen RoboForce before. They're an indie, I guess, where they only press back in the day. And on this side, we have Matt Hudson writing and EJ Sue artist. Sounds Korean, maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pager for RoboForce, and like, I don't know, what is this, an 18 pager for the biker mice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, pretty substantial. So I don't know, interesting. There's some things I don't like and some things I do like, but always interesting. Next, we have our first Image comic of the multi-pack. Image, of course, is one of the bigs, but they're basically a distributor. We've spoken about this many times. They don't offer money to most of the artists that they publish. It's just kind of like a distribution deal. Is that still the case as far as we know, Kurt?
Why are you saying they don't offer money? I think it's definitely I think there's like a advance of some sort, contractually, and then the rumor is I've heard is like you've got to sell 30,000 copies, or I forget how it goes, but there's some substantial number. No, it's not 30,000 copies. I think that there's something. It was basically if you broke your first printing, then you would start collecting royalties no matter what it was or something. So, you might be getting, I don't know, $1,000 or something. I don't know, something along those lines.
You mean Image is paying advances?
I have a feeling that there's something there cash-wise in advance. I think there's also negotiation that you have to go through, because I think the biggest thing that they take is the media rights. So if you wanted to make a cartoon, if you wanted to make a movie, a television show, or like that, Image is pretty much hound dogging that.
They're right. Well, there's a million ways to structure a deal. In comics, every artist is different. Every writer, artist, creative team is different.
Yeah.
It's possible that they're structuring every single deal differently, but Image is just cranking out so much stuff that I have a feeling that they've kind of standardized it for a lot of these artists. And this is like, this is like some good art, some good storytelling. There's a rich story here. It's not my kind of thing. There's kind of like sparse, spaces here. Things are like really big, a lot of talking heads, not too much action. I would say that it's kind of typical for an Image comic. I don't know that they're fronting cash out to people to make this stuff. I have a feeling.
How do you come to that though? I'm just curious.
No
I'm curious.
I have no idea. But
you never heard anything said somewhere?
No, I would love to interview an Image artist and find out, you don't maybe have to talk specifics about amounts or anything, but I would love to know how Image is working with their creators, because it's a possibility if you're a decent artist and you're an indie artist to hook up with Image, and they might have a deal where we're like, well, we'll put out your stuff under our imprint, but we're just going to try it out and see if we hit gold. I know another thing that we've discussed is that Image gives away for free on their website every single #1. And you can go right now on their website and see every single #1 from Image Comics, which is hundreds, if not thousands.
I'm talking digitally.
Yeah, the digital version of it. And so that's something that, I think is without exception. I don't know, but it seems like it's without exception every single #1. Going back to Savage Dragon and all that stuff. But interesting questions. We might not have the answers, but we have the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Oni Press again, established 1997, Portland, Oregon. And here is Benjamin, #1, by Ben H. Winters and Leo Max, which is a one-word name. And this looks like some trippy kind of thing with space. It's a very, very hard cover. The spine is already bent. Good glossy paper stock. and here we are in outer space, and now we're into like some human characters. So there's a lot. It's a good style. Like this. Kurt, this is what makes me nuts. Why would you waste a whole page like this? Like, I don't get it. Like, if there's a dramatic effect, like, oh, like this is the scene where, the kid's all alone and you feel the emptiness of the page. I get it. But this is just a guy walking down the street, and they just chose to leave the entire sky blank. Why? I don't.
Maybe it has something to do with the story. Maybe that whole top almost 2/3 is relevant to that Benjamin's story structure.
Right. So leading up to it, we get these two guys in the motel room. They're arguing, and then the guy says, "Well, in that case, get the fuck out of here." And then you see the guy all alone under the open sky. But why couldn't that be a half a panel and just draw the guy smaller and have that big open thing? Like, I don't know. It's a decision. Like, I see a lot of wasted space here, right? This is all like this panel, it's 40% bushes, right? This panel, it's 30% empty sky. This panel, again, it's like 20, it's a quarter of it, it's just bushes. This panel has no background, right? So, one of my complaints is that things are sparse, and it isn't like, oh, you didn't bother to make a background. Just do something design-wise that puts some value on the page, right? Like, you can do this, like little scruffs. You can do like Crumb, like always did crosshatches or bricks or a cityscape or something. There's some interesting art here. There's some interesting stuff going on that I'm not bothering to read, but not going to go through the whole thing. But that's Benjamin. Here is, and so that was an Oni Press comic from this year. Here is a Spawn Universe title, Image comic, and the sub imprint is Spawn's New Universe. So this is Bloodletter number 2. And now this is, I guess, Todd McFarlane letting people go crazy in his world, right? And I love that idea, because I'm doing that, and Crom is doing that. Everybody's doing that, right?
Everybody's doing that.
Well, yeah, you would love to have people, if you're established, or maybe you're just aspiring to be established, but you have collaborators. It's like, all right, well, pick a character in my world and go make a story. They're doing that with Star Wars. They're doing that with all these spin-off kind of things, all these universes. No, this appears in the universe of Spawn. Okay, great. So what do we have? We have some vampires here, I think. And, I think this is some kind of painted cover or some kind of created cover. It looks splattery. I like the art on the inside on the first page. The artist for the inside is Christian Rosado, and the script is Joseph Illich and Tim Seeley. And Todd McFarlane is credited as additional work, which probably means editing or maybe some suggestion along the way. I imagine at this point, he can't be too hands-on to all these little creative, comics under his imprint, but who knows?
Who knows?
This looks like pretty good art. It looks a little indie-ish. It's full color. This doesn't look so imagey, like all that kind of repeatable image kind of connotations that you have, just comic after comic. It's like, kind of like a style. This kind of looks a little bit rougher to me, a little more like what's his name? The guy that did Flare, Mark Wade, or what was his name? Bane or something? The guy that did Flare all the time.
I can't remember.
Kind of scratchy. Yeah, so interesting art. Maybe a little bit like Mark Teixeira a little, but all right. I like the art. I didn't read the story, but I like the art, and it's a stiff cover. And then here, another Conan. We have the Virgin cover for Scourge of the Serpent. So I gotta say, I know, and this one, yeah. So this one, the cover is not bent so bad, but there is a little tickle here. So I got 3 Conans, just to review, right? And I'm just assuming this is this good artist again. Yeah. Oh, geez. I think this is the same interior as I had already.
I'm waiting.
So
I'm waiting.
I got 2.5. Right. So this is the same interior as this.
Yep.
Unfortunately. So this one I'm gonna get rid of, and this one I'm gonna keep. This is a much
Put it in my pile.
Yes, good. I'll give you the Conan. So.
Thank you.
And I have your pile handy here somewhere.
Oh, I can hear it. That drawer's getting heavier.
There's a lot in the drawer, but there's not a lot in your envelope.
Oh,
so far. Well, we have a lot to go over. We haven't done comics that influence in a while, and so this, I suppose, will conclude our. I guess this will conclude, but stay tuned next week when we'll do a little segment with this other pile, the 18+ indie pile. And we know that there's going to be this EC comic in there, Catacomb of Torment, and we know that there's going to be this medieval Spawn in there. But what will these other ones be? And will we be talking about mid-tier publishers like Titan and Image and Dark Horse, or who knows what'll be in there? But they call it indie, so there's definitely no Marvel and definitely no DC. So back to work now.
All right, Jake. I have one last thing on my list. IC3 sign up. Did you get your notification?
No, for September I did not. I probably didn't check my my email, and I don't know, because last time it was just everything was under your name, so I want to get my own separate table.
Oh yeah, well that's we definitely have to do that, and
so if I didn't get one, I might not be on the privilege list.
I don't think you never submitted, because you were. I did it all on my own, and then of course there's 2 badges, 2 chairs, and a table, and then you were like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come," and then it was a bonfire of delight and ecstaticness, and the table next to us came available, and Matt Sardo gave it to us, so so that became like the bonus to it all. But yeah, I will forward you the email that just basically has where you fill out, because they are it's curated, so they roll things out in waves.
Well, it came to both a Hellclaw, so I
I
got my copy separately. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it duplicates the email to you and me.
So we're both getting our own tables, and then I'm gonna do this. If you would like to do it, I think it would be worthwhile, but I would like to earmark you in, some message in there that if I am accepted, and my Turbo Pit Fighter co-creator, Jake Jacobs, we would like to get the tables together. But I think there's a time where Matt, once he closes down, he'll then just come out and say to people like, do you have any specifics? Do you want to be near Cosmic Lion? Or I know Power Pulp Comics is going to be there. Matt King was talking about that. Yeah, so I'm excited. July 11th is their Jacksonville, Florida IC3. And unfortunately, that is the beginning of my wife's yearly vacation. So I can't go.
Well, wait, they're having. Is that before September, or is that the following?
Yeah, July is before September. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So right. So because I thought the first one coming was September, and then I thought that might be the following July. So I can make that. I can go do that.
Yeah. So in that email, it's going to have you can submit to both shows separately. So if you wanted to go and do that show, then definitely submit to that, because I really wanted to be down there for that one.
How far from Jacksonville is? Hey, Siri,
Jacksonville is north. Is the most northern part.
Jacksonville is Daytona.
I don't think it's that far
Wait. I gotta ask again. It gave me 3,765 miles.
from you.
Hey Siri, how far from Jacksonville, Florida is Daytona, Florida? Let's see if I can get the answer. Hey Siri, how far from Jacksonville is Daytona? Wow, that can't be. This is 14 hours.
No, they keep giving you. She's doing it from your location because I'm 12. I'm 12 hours from Jacksonville.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's got to just be a couple hours because I have a place in Daytona, but I don't have yet to stay. But if I want to be going back and forth, I'd probably get a hotel if it's more than a couple hours, right? That's why or I was excited about Orlando, but it's during the school year, so I can't. I mean, it's actually the winter break is coming up, and they're having the original art festival or whatever convention.
OAX.
OAX, and that's going to be in Orlando, which is only an hour from Daytona.
Hour and a half. That's an hour and a half stretch between Daytona and Jacksonville.
Oh, that's nothing. Great. Oh,
Yeah.
so I can commute. Okay. Oh, I'm so there. I just hope I get accepted. That's all.
Yep. That's the only thing you got to do.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, is there any space in there for like somebody could put in a good word or anything, or how does it work? It's just if they remember you or not. I mean, I'll be hopefully there's some notes in there I can say. I mean, I have all my links, handy and neat, so they're easy to review. But
one thing I would suggest, I'm going to be cleaning up my Comic Art Fans account. Is you're going to want to go and set up a Comic Arts Fan account, Jake, and put up a couple pieces, and because there's going to be 2 more IC3 events, but they're going to be online May and November on CAF, Comic Art Fan. So that was the whole thing that Kazra and Matt were talking about, and Kazra has been promoting, every time he's been doing interviews. So, that's, and then there's supposedly one more event that there's going to be a inset indie comics Comic-Con booth. So it would be a rung of tables for people who are just indie creators. So
right, but I love the idea of the original art.
Oh yeah,
because I was showing some of the stuff on that live stream I did. All this original art. Now a lot of that stuff was unfinished. I only had a couple of pieces that were actually finished and ready to go. But I have a pile of finished stuff. Obviously, I wasn't showing that. I have a briefcase full of finished stuff that's in a different category.
Yeah, because I'm most definitely gonna go. The only problem is always just the dates themselves. I can't just say I'm going because there's just many things in my world that get locked in yearly and stuff like that. So
yeah, well, same with me. I'm a school teacher, so I have the whole school year is bad, but then I do have a couple months off in the summer, which is great. I have 2 months off in the summer, which is great, and I have a couple of breaks. I have spring break, winter break, and holiday breaks. So, that's what I'm consigned to for now, and it's fine. But maybe it'll get a little bit looser in a couple more years for me. It kind of depends. I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. It kind of depends on how much money you can make. Like in Florida has this thing where they really steal a lot of New Yorkers away.
Yeah, it's called hiding your not paying any taxes on your.
Right, they lure New Yorkers away because they have a very low tax rate, state tax rate. Federal taxes are unavoidable no matter where you go, but Florida does not charge the same state taxes. And if you make a big city pension in New York City, you can then, just go down to Florida where the living's easy, so to speak,
Yep.
and just your money goes farther. And that has been a formula that has been working for Florida for many years and working against New York for many years, because these are all of our earners, and now they're taking all that spending and all that tax money that they could be paying down to another state, and New York is missing out. But the reason why people go to Florida, it's pretty obvious. They want the sun and the warmth, and maybe it's about having some nice easy lifestyle, like my wife. She retired and she's living in a retirement community, not for the old people, but for the young old people, and people in their 50s and 60s that are still out and about, and they're doing everything. They have clubs and they have cruises and they have concerts. And I hate to say it, but Margaritaville has Jimmy Buffett, and they go on, they to this day they go on outings to see the Grateful Dead or Jimmy Buffett, shows or whatever, and country music. And
Jimmy's gone.
Jimmy's dead, but there's
Jimmy's dead.
now it's tribute performers,
Whoa.
and I'm not gonna judge anybody's taste in music. Last night I went out to see a Doors cover band and a Hendrix cover band, and it's not my favorite kind of music is to see tribute bands, but I'll tell you what, man, there was a full crowd of people, maybe like 40 people there, that were hooting and hollering, and they
Break on through to the other
right.
side. Break on through. Yeah.
They did all the hits. They did all the long versions of all the hits. And my drummer is in that band, so I was rooting for them to do good. But it's just a phenomenon that that people of a certain age love the music that was out when they were younger, and they will go and watch performances of it till the day they die. And they might not be able to sing along to every lyric, but they remember the hooks, and and they'll sing along to the hooks. So yeah, so it same thing goes in Florida. Though the live music is just like some of these retirement communities, it's not my thing. Like I play in bands in the city, in New York City, and I'm like I'm thirsting for culture, like original music, and honest performances. The punk genre is like there's an honesty there, and
Basically, you're a snob.
right. I don't want it. Well, I don't begrudge anybody to listen to Brown Eyed Girl, from a cover band that that are all weekend warriors, and they work all week, to come out and play the same, Creedence, songs or whatever. Because they're entertaining their audience, and the people are tapping along and they're having fun, and they're showing up. I mean, in Florida, that in those areas of Florida, it wouldn't work as an original band. Oh, we do all original garage punk, no, they won't book you. I mean, maybe some places will. That's the whole fun, is finding the venues too. But usually when I go down to Florida, it's my wife's scene, and I only go down once or twice a year, probably only once this year. And I go hunting for records and comics, and I I go to the comic stores, and go to the dollar bins, and I collect a lot of great stuff. But I'm not a beach guy. Excuse me. If I go to the beach, it's like at the end of the day, when maybe it's like not so crowded and it's not so hot. I just go like rolling around in the waves like a fool, and just like body surfing or something. But I don't want to sit there and bake in the sun like a raisin. That's not my idea of fun. So look, there's something for everybody, and I'm sure a lot of people listening have every intention when they get older to retire in some place with beautiful weather every single day. Hot weather, doesn't get cold. But Daytona just had like a 20-degree weather the other day.
Everybody did.
And they were all
if you're lucky.
Yeah, they said they had to wrap their plants in towels, to withstand the cold snap. So there's no escaping. And like Texas had some really rough weather last week or two also. Mississippi got really the worst.
Mississippi.
Yeah, they really got pounded. I think, like really costly floods and stuff. So
yeah, I lived in Texas as a kid, and I remember twice it snowed. You want to talk about a state freaking out? What do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, well, there was that whole Ted Cruz thing a couple of years ago where he went to Cancun, and Texas power lines were not prepared for the cold snap they got, and like two or three, I think there are a handful of people died, but they were saying that the grid wasn't built for that kind of weather.
Yeah, exactly. Why would it be?
We're at the climate change thing where the unpredictable weather is fucking with everything. So
right. All right, Jake, I got news.
Okay. News headlines.
Done.
You're finished with the 6-pager with the 11 pages.
11 pagers. So this is page 1. I'm very happy with majority. This, like I said, now this is all Alex's pencil, some light inking. So I really wanted to stay in line with what he put down. So I really built on top of it with my texture and toning. And of course, you see color in one sense, but it's all going to get flattened out into just black to be printed on white paper. So a lot of this decision I've made is based on that. But even as I'm flipping through there, I could see little places where I could go like this, like this.
Yeah.
But you got to call it quits. You got to get the pages scanned into Jake.
You do, and you also have to make some sacrifices at the end, because when you get it back and you get your print proof, you might say, well, this whole page looks like it's 50% gray. I need to bring out the contrast, and you need to make some slider moves on your curve, tool.
Yep.
But
that's what we're heading to. This is what we were saying at the beginning of the show. When it comes to whether we're going to put all 18 pages, the first 18 pages of Turbo, and we've got 2. We have one Landgraf story, one Landgraf pin-up, and we got a 2-pager you and I did for Cremita, and we've got a lot of stuff. But I think the biggest thing I'm excited for is to get a proof copy made, whether we just do it at Mix'em and we both just order copies and then we have them, and then we can just really we can sit and tick it all apart, because I do not do well with verbal communication about creative stuff. So I have no verbal skills in order to understand, comprehend what somebody's saying creatively should happen. So I got to have my floppy in front of me, and I would like to have you. That's going to be the first thing I'd like to see us have.
Yeah.
So, and I just also want to say my goal was to have these pages done by the end of January, and it just so happens to be the 1st of February. So, pat on the back, pat on the back, pat on the back, pat on the back, please. No.
So you're going to be giving that to me as early as next week, right?
Oh yeah, you'll have it.
Nice. Yeah.
So yep, and then I will be heading back to the Tableau, those illustrations, because other than that, we're pretty good at just having illustrations to exemplify what you're we're pulling out of the Substack, or creating the good old pulp pages here,
Right.
Which, by the way, Jake and I have not made the decision, but if you want to get a copy of Turbo Pit Fighters teaser #2, first 12 pages, also as a PDF, go over to cromthebarbarian.com, and it is there to get a hold of. Is either a printed copy or a PDF copy, because there's a chance, depending on how it goes between Jake and I, on whether we're going to put these 12 pages into the Doom magazine, the Doom anthology, Doom magazine anthology #1. So that is yet to be determined. It's under discussion, but my point is that if the first 12 with the additional 6 go into the Doom anthology, then this is no longer available. So, and I believe I have these at like $5, and then like a couple bucks for the PDF. So they are here.
Right.
Yeah.
Collectible.
We'll be talking about it for years. Also on cromthebarbarian.com, I just added 2 new books. This is one that has to be acquired by individuals in the indie scene. I was so blown away by this. Is Jamie Barrow's Cyberzerker. I'm not going to spoil that much, but Jamie has graciously allowed the first 7 pages to be printed in Crom Anthology #1 with a QR code that'll link to getting a hold of this beauty.
How many pages is the whole thing?
32, okay. Somewhere around there.
A little bite-sized sample.
Wonderfully crafted. He also put together Grimothy Ripper's first comic book, like whole story. Grimothy Ripper is a part of the Brutal Blade of Crom crew. Amazing illustrator. I believe he's in #3. I was blown away, as I am with most of those who are in the Crom Brutal Blade of Crom. No, that's #3. This is #2. Let me see. Let me just go. Yep, here he is. There we go. Yeah, I got to this one, Heretic God by Grimothy Ripper, and was just one of the most attractive things to me is the black and white hatching, and it's just very reminiscent of Jeff Bertrand. So really cool. So finished reading both of these. Jake, do you remember a Keith Carradine movie? I think late 70s, early 80s. It probably was more early 80s. It's called Circle of Iron. And it was a quasi spiritual / martial arts movie where a guy, Keith Carradine, is the champion of his like walled city. And he is then allowed to leave the city as a seeker to find enlightenment, but he has to go through all these martial arts. It was written by Bruce Lee, or co-written by Bruce Lee. He was played the star in it and then prematurely passed away. And of course, Keith Carradine, having been the replacement model for Bruce in the Kung Fu series, ended up playing it. One of my secret favorite movies, like just knocking the freaking head. So I'm reading this. I'm like, wow, this is really familiar, but it's super original. So I reached out to Grimothy, and sure enough, that was the source material.
Is that Chuck Norris, the bad guy?
Chuck Norris.
Look. That looks like Chuck right there. He's wearing a mask.
Can you pull it down? Oh, no. There's no Chuck Norris in there.
No? Okay. Well, there's a guy wearing a mask. So here's the poster, and it looks like a pit fight is going on.
Oh, yeah. No, you're gonna love it. And then the last thing I want to promote is get over to Cosmic Lion. There's pre-order happening for Relic Hunter #2. I have ordered my copies. This was a little teaser I had gotten from Adam Lemna, the creator. There's a little teaser what number 2's got in store for us. So excited, long overdue, a long wait, but it's going to be worth it. And to support an incredible, one of my favorites. I say this all the time, but when it comes down to sword and sorcery, and we had a great interview with him. Total homage to Hawks of Shem, which is from the Savage Sword of Conan. I saw this and was immediately down, and just really amazing. So Cosmic Lion, of course, buy anything Cosmic Lion. Great indie creator, supporter, publisher. But Relic Hunter number 2. And last but not least,
Is it really last?
Copies of Crom Anthology number 1 are always available. And cromthebarbarian.com. Here, I forgot all about these, Jake. You remember these? Bing!
What's that?
You see down the bottom? It says cromthebarbarian.com.
Oh, yeah.
I totally forgot about these. So 256 pages of black and white sword and sorcery goodness. Crom Anthology number 2 is in the works. We're halfway through the deadline for the roughs. I'll be making more statements and talking about stuff over at Crom the Barbarian YouTube channel. So yeah, and really super excited about what's going on there. But Jake, that's all I have. What do you have for these people before we let them go back?
So we need a little news flash sound effect. Yeah, that's the cheap version. But so I did apply for a table at the Fanfare NYC. And that is the annual Comic-Con that they have at the High School of Art and Design, where I have been attending just as a guest, as a visitor for the last couple of years, and also as an art teacher, to see what the fine students of New York City are making, especially in a great school like High School of Art and Design, where they have a comic program. So I got the applications, filled it out, and sent my links, and I'm hoping that I get approved for a table to that. So that would be great, and I think that's in April. So crossing my fingers, and if I get approved, it's going to be fun. But I am going to have to do one thing that we've spoke about in the past that you may or may not remember, but one thing is, since it's a high school, they say that exhibitors cannot have mature content.
Oops.
And I have seen some people there selling that have very mature content. Like, I know this one guy who was also a teacher actually, but he put out stuff that was really like bordering on like underground, like political and like adult and everything. But if I do get accepted, my next printing of the teaser, which will be a small printing, maybe like 40 copies, will be what we spoke about as far as the one page that has some breasts showing. She's going to have a top. She's going to have a raggy top like she does in some of the other scenes. And so that'll be our first, I guess, censored edition or whatever. But everything else will be the same except for those, like, God forbid you can see somebody's nipples and areolas. That's the big thing. But I want to respect the venue and and do whatever they need. It's a great show that I'd love to do. And if that's what we have to do, then I'm more than happy to do it.
Jake's gonna do it.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a lot of work at all, but I would have to do that, and I would have to do it in time to get the stuff back. What's the turnaround time for Mix'em again? Is it like a couple of weeks, or is it a month or more?
A couple of weeks at most.
Right. I know you can like pay for a rush if you need to, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. So maybe because it'll only take me like a day to do the artwork and just overlay those couple of panels. It's like maybe 2 or 3 panels, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So that's the big news, and I did pay for you're just filling out an application. You're not accepted, but they say like, are you applying for one table or two tables? So I'm like, yeah, one table. And you want to be in the are you an artist or are you a vendor? So I'm like, I'm an artist. I might have some comics, like a box of used comics, but mostly I'm selling comics, original art and prints. And then the question is, do you want an extra chair? And it's like $15 for an extra chair. So I'm like, well, yeah, of course I want an extra chair. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna have anybody visiting, but you could put stuff on the chair, rather than put it on the floor. So $15 was a no-brainer for that. So yeah, that was my last announcement for the day.
Cool. All right. Well, we had some hangers in. Raz 5558, Saboteur Comics, Daryl Grant 4493. So those are the ones that just popped in and said hi. But for everybody who hung out with us, once again, can't thank you enough. It just really makes Jake and I's experience for hanging at Jake's house, that much more fun. So
yeah, and I'm definitely going live after this.
I was just gonna say that. So
I'm gonna be on Substack, and if anybody wants to jump up and be a guest and be a voice, if you're in a comic game, even if you're just a collector or you're just or I don't mean to say just, but even if you're a collector or an aficionado, we can definitely do it at least for a while. And I'm just kind of shooting the breeze as I draw and talk, so it's all loosey goosey conversational, and feel free to just hit me up with a comment and say I'll come up on the stage too.
Just hang and chill. And like I said, I put your last live stream from Substack, Doommags Substack, 2 hours long. It's obviously still on the Substack, but I also got it on YouTube, and there'll be a bunch of like little magic clips that will be coming through. But it really was, I think, a great example of how we as creatives just need to get on, because the best thing about it, Jake, and it's pretty much how both of us operate, is we just get started. We don't spend 5 freaking minutes introducing ourselves or sitting in a chair, smoking a pipe, drinking a you know what I mean? Like, I'm so tired of the people trying to create a television show. You know what I mean? And you're a creative. Just the people I've been watching on YouTube all are just right there in there. Level 9 Drow, of course, Ralph Nixon for his Under God, Alex Turbin. I mean, these are the great channels, in my opinion right now, that are just turn the camera on, show what it is you're doing, talk about it. Raleigh Zero, and just get in and get out. You don't have to do anything other than engage. And Jake and I are offering the opportunity for people to pop in next week. Really excited to have Ralph on, and he'll be our first, I guess we would call him like insertion guest.
Embedded.
So embedded, yeah, our embedded guest, which I will then later cut out and create a standalone video for people to be able to then watch that, which I'll be doing for your Newberry Comic Hall segment that you had there. But Jake, man, let these people get back to reading comics, making them if they choose.
That's right. And, continue the after party with me on substack.com/Doommags, or just put Doommags in Google. I'm going to take a quick break. So I'll probably be up there like in 15-20 minutes. And shooting the breeze. Kurt's not there, so we can talk about anything, and I do never know where my mind's going to wander to. But I love Sundays because I get to actually make some progress. And and here I'm just working on the Casualties cover. Haven't been explaining it too much, but that's the progress that I'm making over here now.
Cool. All right, I'll see you next Sunday.
All right, folks. Don't forget to check our archives. We have our Indie Creator Exchange with lots of cool interviews with indie creators like us, and we also have our Comics That Influence where we do flip throughs. Tons and tons of stuff there. Check you guys out live next Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right back here. See you, Kurt.